Hello, everyone. It's Master Power Cat's time, and tonight, character spotlight on Masque and Shakoti. We've covered House Shakoti Part 1 and 2. We did one of those watch-along deals a couple years back, but tonight we are going to deep dive, and we're going to talk about the potential that these characters present, because as we go through, once again, we're going to go through the two-parter, and the bits. We're going to flip through the episode here. Their presence in it is known, but there's just so much more that could have been done here and so much that could have been explored with these characters. But we'll just go ahead and dive into this right now. Tyler, I know you're excited. We've talked about this before. The two-parter for you is one of your favorites, and this is the only two-parter in the entire run of Master.
Absolutely, and I put it in definitely the top three. You know, but with Dragon's Gift and Evelyn's plot, I mean, it's a perfect story from beginning to end. I'm sure there'll be a few things I say during this discussion that I have said in the past before, but this really did scare the shit out of me as a kid. Not so much that it traumatized me, but I really was bothered by Masque and really, really bothered by Shokoti as a child. Like I, as we get into it, I can share a few things that I'm pretty sure I haven't shared before in terms of, like, you know, my thoughts and feelings watching this as a child was like, it just, well, I'll save it for when we get into it there.
Okay. So once again, we're going to go through the two-parter. We're going to discuss these episodes, but after that, we're going to talk about the deleted scene that we would have gotten at the beginning of part 1. We're going to go through the compendium, discuss that. We're going to talk about the classics figures that we got in the line. We're going to laugh at the classics bio together, and then we'll start talking about potential, because I'm sure Tyler over the years has had plenty of ideas story-wise of maybe we'll get into that. I'm thinking prequel stuff or bringing them back, or however, we'll get into that. But House Shokoti Part 1, written by the late, great Larry DiTillio.
And we are opening with a kind of light and friendly opening act here of Orko trying to talk Cringer into jumping through his magic hoop. Definitely one of the lightest moment of the entire two-parter is this. After this, I mean, look,
I would say Ram Man would probably be underneath that in terms of the lightheartedness to kind of deter the serious scariness of
it. He has this is the best Ram Man performance of the entire series, in my opinion. And Larry DiTillio said he was really proud of how he wrote Ram Man in this. But I guess for this sequence, like, where there's nothing, no mystery going on. It's just a typical day in the royal palace, and seeing, you know, familiar acts of behavior between the two of these guys before things really get going here. And to think about too, before, we won't discuss it yet, but to think, had this opened with the actual original opening to this, how would the tone just drastically changing just as quickly and abruptly, which there's a few things in this two-parter that I really wish they had kept, but unfortunately what we got was still perfection, and it's unbelievable to think we could have gotten something even more grander than this. But Orko does a pretty good, sweet job of trying to talk Cringer into participating by offering, hey, so if you do this, the king will probably give you some cake, ice cream, or maybe even some yummy fish. And boy, that gets Cringer's adrenaline kicked in at high speed, and it just breaks the whole fucking thing.
it just stumbles into him.
And Adam just shows up and says, "You guys having a good time?" And the shot of Cringer, like, sitting up on his back paws with Orko pressing us, and that smile, I always remember that particular smile from Cringer. It was just a very cartoonish moment, but not something you would see a lot, because Cringer's always, you know, scared out of his mind, so he didn't have a whole lot to smile about a lot of times. So
there we go.
It abruptly turns to anger when Orko blames him for ruining the magic hoop there. And then right after that, we are kicked into the story here with the Sorceress contacting Adam, saying He-Man and Battle Cat are wanted at Castle Grayskull. Like, that's it.
ASAP.
And I love in this moment, and I have watched this two-parter a lot, and and a lot even lately, getting prepared for this, and even before we decided to do this, just because it's just how I am. Listening to the small snippets throughout the first part, you're like, and really digging in to what we would get, like the sorceress explaining, 10 days ago, a nomad came to the fortress and says he saw a pyramid rise up out of the desert. And based on his description, she has an image to show He-Man. And the fortress who sent men to look for it but couldn't find it. And He-Man, of course, says, well, pyramids just don't disappear. The sorceress already has an idea of what this is. An ancient evil is behind this strange happening. Like, of course, she doesn't tell us what it is, but obviously with her position, the sorceress, she has to be pretty well versed of, I'd say, everything that has happened on this planet, from good to bad. Everybody, even though the character of like Hero is not in the Filmation series, obviously she's aware of that, and obviously she's quite aware of who Shakoti is and was, and her what she is responsible for. But it's left for He-Man and us as the audience to see this story unwrapped. But I just love that she's not convinced quite yet. That I feel like that's kind of how her take on it is. Like, I think it's something, it's like she has an idea about what it is, and of course it's up to He-Man and Ram-Man and Battlecat and Orko to charge into this. And this fortress has not been, I don't think, ever been discussed. And I'd like to think, and this kind of might be a little jumping ahead of something we've been talking about, but I feel like, I almost feel like I might be jumping ahead if I kind of dive into this idea of the fortress, because I don't want to like overrun what we're trying to do here.
Well, I mean, it's something we can come back to if you want.
Well, it's just it's I just feel like there's something more to this fortress here, that it's the fortress in the sands, as if like it's the only one out there. And as we'll find out, Masque is wise to the idea that the fortress is sending men to look for the pyramid, which made me think that this fortress probably was built originally as a means of a safekeep over the House of Darkness, to ensure nobody would try to resurrect it, dig for it, find it, anything. And I just feel like, maybe over time they've kind of forgotten about it because it's so ancient and old that maybe it just becomes an outpost. It's a fortress that becomes, maybe a means of transportation or supplies, or maybe it's a transition area. People are stopping or whatever, or maybe it's the only fortress in the sands of time. So right. Maybe it's the only location of a safe haven for travelers. But I'd like to think maybe its original purpose was to watch over the burial ground of the House of Darkness.
You would think that maybe the only couple of people that would know of its potential use prior to this would be Malacta and the sorceress.
And even then, when he mentions, it's a House of Darkness where a sleeping beast dwells, he doesn't mention Shakoti.
Right.
So it's one of those things. I'm sure, I don't know if Detilio had any more than this, but I just like to kind of build upon these wonderful story, or these little plot lines that he's kind of thrown out there. But we'll dig into that once we get more into the expansion there. But as the Windrow arrives to check the situation out, laser fire from the spider drones.
I like the look of these a lot.
Yeah, they're pretty badass. They're pretty badass, yeah. And they are one mission only, is to take out the fortress. And I always thought Trapjaw's hideout was quite cool looking, and unfortunately we don't ever see it again. But it's cool to think of a lot of Skeletor's henchmen when they're not at Snake Mountain.
They have their own place.
Yeah, and we get our first appearance and first shot of Lord Masque, and intimidating as hell to me as a kid, with the voice, the look. And it was so weird for me to see someone Trapjaw answering to that's not Skeletor as a kid. Like I just thought, this is kind of odd. I didn't appreciate the fact that Trapjaw is essentially as a mercenary. He's being hired by this mysterious guy to, hey, I want you to take out this fortress that's not far from your location. And the fortress is struggling with it, of course, until He-Man and them get involved with the battle, and the Wind Raider is taken out.
Yep, they get shot down. They're down and out, and Orko's there to check and see if everyone's all right.
And as Ramius, I'll swap those metal buggies, He-Man, and not, it's right there. Definitely looks like it's quite painful, but he mission successful in taking out 2 spider drones. Yeah, and that right there, this Lord Masque saying your machines have failed, and Trapjaw explains only because of He-Man showed it, and Masque has no idea who He-Man is. I love that this character is so, and I feel like it's something that we'll have to wait and discuss a little later on, but is oblivious to what has happened and what has transpired since being able to leave the House of Darkness.
Yeah.
So he's on, and he's only been out, I guess, as we can put together, for 10 days. Because 10 days, is what we will find is what the sorceress has said when the pyramid rose out of the sand. So 10 days, Masque has sought out the situation, hired Trapjaw, and a few other things as we'll get along here. So he's been a very busy, mysterious man in 10 days. And the fact that Trapjaw is like, I just hope he doesn't come here. And that's not something Masque wants to hear right now.
Picks him up with one arm.
By his mechanical arm at that too. And so effortlessly. And that right there, that is one badass shot of him. Like, it's not as badass as the one coming up here in a little bit, but that was a very imposing shot as a kid to see that. And this guy is given a name, and it's in the Formation Compendium. I forgot what it is, but this guy I'd like to think is just one of many leaders that have been brought up in the ranks over the years to preside over the fortress. Maybe, as time has passed on, being told, what, this place was originally supposed to look over this supposedly, ultimate evil pyramid. And you know what? Nothing has happened in centuries, eons. So we're pretty much just, it serves its purpose. If anything were to ever happen, this is what you're responsible for. But otherwise, keep travelers safe, prevent, almost, I guess you could say maybe like a police department out there, so to speak, or it could be used for so many other reasons. But he is name checked. Unfortunately, we don't get it in the episode.
I was quickly trying to find it, but nothing popped up there.
Oh, no worries. But they pick out one of the, I guess it's like it's a control box in the spider drones, and they decided they'll put it in the Wind Raider, and that it should bring them back to Trapjaw's location, which Orko explains to Ram.
Ram Man can't quite put 2 and 2 together here.
Not quite. Much to Orko's like.
Masque here telling Trapjaw, it's like, oh, how soon can you get these fixed and repaired and ready to go? And Trapjaw's like, this is gonna take some time.
Yeah, it's like, what's the hurry? Like, dude, I'm a one-armed, mercenary here. I can only do this stuff, if he's preparing each one at a time.
Yeah.
It's fascinating to think of like how vast and full of technology Trapjaw's base is.
Well, because look right here in this long stretching corridor, like how big is his fortress?
Yeah, like, and I think of like in the episode like Father Like Daughter when he's mass producing the Serpentoids. Like, it's probably technology that he has built and created in that laboratory that he's got, along with all the variety of weapons that he's come up with, have all been established there. And right here is that this one Masque is the fortress sends men to seek out the pyramid of my mistress. That's why, you got to get this shit done. And that to me almost that's what kind of made me start to think that the fortress in the sands, its purpose was to watch out, and to hear like this someone all these years later says, like, there's this massive pyramid just popped out of the sand, and they go look for it, and there's nothing there.
Yeah.
but then suddenly the fortress is being attacked by these massive spider drones. Like, it couldn't help but feel like, something's definitely going on out there. And of course, He-Man's there to remind Trapjaw, like, I appreciate you saying that I'm the biggest threat to your all situation right now. Yep. Ram Man again takes out another spider drone that's already it's incapacitated and knocks the hell out of Trapjaw. And I used to get kind of spooked out when he would get pissed at Trapjaw and then disappear. Like, I just thought that was very like, eesh. I don't know why, but I just found that a little off-putting.
Oh, that's weird that it creeped you out that much as a kid.
It's the noise that, when he snaps at him, and then the sound effect when he disappears into mist and goes out the window. It was just, I was like, oof, he's kind of creepy. And He-Man and Ram-Man aren't too concerned because they've still got Trapjaw, and Trapjaw's not giving up without a fight. And we get to see a nice display of He-Man's agility. Yeah, no shield, just he's that quick and that can avoid Trapjaw's blast from his Lasertron. And Orko does what I think we have seen before or afterwards. I forgot what the order was. Double-edged sword. He pulls his trick on Trapjaw, the bang, and explodes up in his face. And that pretty much puts Trapjaw out of commission for He-Man to wrap him up.
Poor Trapjaw.
Yeah, and he's going to be taken to the Fortress in the Sands, which, again, serves as like, is it a place where they keep people that have caused trouble, who have, it's a passing statement, but it just makes you feel like there's a lot more going on with this fortress than we're led to believe, And obviously, you don't have time to dig into so many more details about it, but it's just fascinating to think that there's more to it,
This is where your storytelling starts to develop. You're like,
well, yeah, and I just it's fun to think that it's been there since however that House of Darkness was sunk into the sand the first time.
Yeah,
and then they build this fortress, and it's meant to just make sure no one comes around, looking for trouble and trying to bring her back. And this creeped me out as a kid. Yeah, this shot of him like just looking down at He-Man, like I'll make you sorry for messing with my plans, He-Man. And then the eyes glow. Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't get more villainous and badass than that, people. If you've not seen this, which if you're watching this, I find it hard to believe you have not watched House of Shakoti. But if you haven't, this guy is by far the best. Well, next to Shokoti, the best two one-shot villains of the entire series. I'm sure others have their favorites, but they are the best. And we get introduced to Malacta, one of the most beloved original characters in Filmation that Larry DeTiller has used on multiple occasions and never got a figure, deserves a figure, should be used in the mythology a lot more often. If I was writing, I would definitely work him into stories for sure.
As we've mentioned before, sort of the Indiana Jones of the.
Yes, absolutely, man. He could have his own series too, just going around looking for stuff. Him and Stanlan and interacting with other cultures and.
I'm sure if Disney had a hold of this property, they would try to do
yeah, because they've done so many great things in Indiana Jones too.
I like how we get here in the book though that you see Mystic Mountains, the Ice Mountains, the Vine Jungle, the Sands of Time. So to see it here in its map form is really interesting.
I was always fascinated by that shot as a kid too, which we would see this in the Dragon's Gift as well by the Detalio, and I just on VHS. The pausing wasn't that great, but it was just cool to look at that and just see what Eternia was made of, in that regard there. Like the fertile plain, the palace, which are all these things have been mentioned in various episodes. The Vine Jungle, the Mystic Mountains, the Ice Mountains. It's just nice to see that little attention to detail.
Yeah. We also have Castle Grayskull.
Yep.
Right here.
Right there in the center there. But however, what is not shown there is the Dark Hemisphere, which will be mentioned in part 2.
And good to know that they also have an equator that they use on their maps.
Absolutely.
There you go, pointing at the Sands of Time.
Yep, and that this is obviously Malacta is aware of it's a tomb that could, it's a house of darkness. Which I'm wondering what his thought is. When he sees it, it's a house of darkness where a sleeping beast dwells. Like in his mind, what is that? Like he's not connecting that it's a place that Shakoti dwells.
Right.
But what would a house of darkness be in this context? In his context, before realizing what it really is, or and this is kind of one of those things I kind of was thinking about too, in terms of like her Shakoti's backstory. Is it one of many houses of darkness, like many temples that were created to worship her, sacrifices, things like that, where that's kind of the only thing that has been kind of, if they look like this is what they were used for. They were used for human sacrifice, in the He-Man world, a sense of devil worship, but you call it, living darkness, the house of darkness. And you're not going to say devil worship in this, but kind of in that context.
Right.
That's kind of how I look at it. And that's from his perspective. That's probably what he might see it as, And that's the goal is we're going to find this tomb, and he'll lead the expedition himself, and everyone's going to come along, right, Granger? Yeah.
I don't want to.
And Orca just has to remind him, oh yeah, there might be a few ghosts, and Orca says, "Don't forget the monsters," as he wags his finger at him.
Yeah. It's a good little moment. And here we're introduced to Stanlan.
Yeah.
The apprentice.
Stanlan. Yep. And he scares the hell out of Cringer. Because he's excited about, I've heard about an expedition. Is it true? And he's pretty pumped about it. But Malacta is also like, I like that. And as a kid, I thought Malacta was pretty tough on him. But as an adult, I appreciate how the character's written. This is a guy who takes his work very seriously. Mm-hmm. Manners, like he works for the royal palace. Like you don't just kind of run in. I feel like these little pieces of dialogue that give extra detail to what his character really is about.
Yeah, and I mean, I like the fact that he's very much like, I don't think you should go, but as it's going to turn out, if Stanlan wasn't there, who knows how this would have gone.
Yeah, because
I mean, it's like on one hand, Stanlan's kind of the one that progresses the story along, but at the same time too, Stanlan's the one that kind of ultimately saves the day to a degree. So
it becomes it's still He-Man is the star of it, but Stanlan has a very well done. It's a perfectly well scripted arc for him.
Yeah, so he's not he doesn't fall into that trope that I usually have a problem with, of a kid tagging along and being annoying. Like, yeah, he puts them in a position of peril, but he's not annoying in the way that he gets them there.
Not at all. And really, that's not explored until the second part. The first part is pretty much, you're seeing everybody getting together, and he's excited about the adventure. When He-Man shows up, he's excited about that. But up until part 2, and of course, here we are. We're
Cringer hiding in the bookcase.
Yeah, and they're giving their introductions to Stanlan, and Adam's like, well, now where do you go? And there's Cringer hiding in the bookcase, and Stanlan says, just hello, kitty. And Cringer's quite put off by that. And I this is I think one of the best portrayals of Cringer. I love the way he's written. Alan Oppenheimer's voice characterization of him in these 2 episodes is I don't know, it stands out more to me than other episodes where he is traditionally very cowardly, but I just like his dialogue to Stanley. Like, I'm not a kitty, I'm Cringer, and you scared me. And
you can talk.
You can. He looks at the camera and says, "Doesn't everybody?" And it's a nice little gag there.
Yeah.
And he's still just he's a young guy who's excited about new things and is fascinated that Cringer can talk. And then Malacta says, "All right, well, we got a lot to do. Off with you." He's like, "Yes, sir." And then this nice little jab at Cringer for saying, King Randor says he's a good boy. I just wish he learned to follow orders. And Cringer, he still says that. Just nice little jab here. A little bit of conversation here, and saying they're going to the village of Karish. I've never heard it quite clearly pronounced. but Masque is overlooking from his location, which I'm wondering, like, where is this at?
Yeah.
Is this, it almost looks similar to Trapjaw's hideout, but no, he's done with
Unless
Trapjaw.
well, maybe not. Maybe he's still at Trapjaw's place. Trapjaw, of course, being taken away. Masque kind of overlooking.
Hey, that's a good point.
He probably just went back in there.
That is an excellent point. I could see him going back in this, and well, obviously he's seen that Trapjaw has been captured, so now the place is secluded. I mean, it's abandoned.
It's all his.
It's all his. So I could see him using that, which oversees the sands of time, because that's where Trapjaw resides.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes, man, excellent point there, man. That's really good. So I could see him, using that to his advantage to keep an eye on like what's going on, and sees that these guys are looking for the pyramid.
Yeah.
So if they're looking for a guide to show them around where this might be, this is an opportunity to not be passed up, and becomes the character named Raka, which is never said in the episode. Oraka or Raka.
I think Raka, because it's what, Rakka?
Or it's Racca.
Oh, Racca.
Yeah. Which this background here was used in Colossal Awakes, but it's used again for the village of Karish, which, hey, I can buy that.
Yeah.
And there he is presenting himself, since they are unable to find a guy, which I'd like to think that, people are probably hearing rumblings about the pyramid, want nothing to do with it. And they're probably telling, like, we don't have a guide here that can help you guys out, because they want nothing to do with the supposed story that's going on. And
yeah, doesn't Malacta make a point somewhere around here? It's like, I've never heard of you or never seen you.
I've never seen you in Karish before. Yeah. So obviously he's quite familiar with the surroundings, the people there, but no one's willing to help out or wanting to help out.
Yeah.
And everyone sleeps at the campsite. So Masque decides to go and disable this land speeder, which that's kind of what it looks like. It looks like the land speeder from the first Star Wars.
And he sabotages that, and then he goes off here to the...
We're going to meet the reptile man, which obviously people he's met in the last 10 days.
Yeah, it's like he's been very busy.
Yeah, it's just like you don't know where at in the sands of time these reptile men have resided, what he has promised them. Look, if you aid me, I will give you whatever. And it's hard to say what the bargain was for getting this entire tribe of reptile men to be willing to. We don't know who you are, but
safe to assume Lizard Man maybe any kind of connections with any of this at all, or
you know what? Again, another thing I didn't think about, and it's one of the things like I've often kind of looked at Lizardman as probably one of the last of his race. That's kind of always what I thought. But you know what? This could be easy to line him up, is that maybe whatever's left of the race have decided to be, warlords, men for hire, and he's like, you know what? I don't want nothing to do with that. I'd rather just.
Or maybe was part of it before and decided to leave it too, maybe.
Yeah, and still just like took the name. I'm Lizard Man. Like, I don't have a name. I am what I am. I'm Lizard Man, and just stuck with that. Yeah. So that would be kind of a fun connection here. Is brilliant idea, man.
I didn't know if it goes too far into the eye-rolling territory. If it's just like, oh, okay, yeah,
well,
trying to connect him too much to something. And
this is a race of people that show up one episode and we never see him again,
right?
And I'm like, I'm quite certain, if people really want to stop and think about it, everybody from Clawful to Merman to Beastman, obviously Buzzsaw comes from a colony B people.
There had to be more of
there had to be more, but
somewhere.
It's just something that is unnecessary in terms of like expanding the story, expanding the characters. But it's more fun to think of like they are the only one of their kind.
Right.
It makes them more unique. And this could be like the last of a dying race of lizard men, but they would much rather destroy, plunder, or be out for hire. And Lizard Man's like, I don't want nothing to do with this. Like, you guys put my family in jeopardy. I have no family now. I'd rather just go my own way and seek peace and quality of life elsewhere.
I like Ram Man here being a carjack, essentially.
Yeah, it's a fun but very practical use for him at this moment.
Yeah.
Like, it's a nice gag, but it's like, no, who wouldn't, you know?
Yeah, it's like his legs lengthen that long, hit the top of his helmet. It's good to just rest something heavy on. Like that.
And that, you know, he can obviously do that for a lengthy period of time, you know. And Malacta is upset because it's just, you know, they're not going to reach their destination till nightfall.
Yeah.
And Orko says, hey, what's that? And boom, you know, here we go with our one of our contestants from our previous episode. The mighty sand digger comes blasting out of the sand like a tremor or a graboid, excuse me.
Yeah.
And is ready to make a meal of everybody, which, as big as he is, they'd be like a small snack.
You'd have to eat quite a few of these guys in order to
Yep. And Randman says, you know, or Adams tells him, you got to stop that digger. I'm on my way. And the sand digger's a little bit more intelligent than we give him credit, and just avoids Randman's charge with ease. Yep. And I like this little change in the transformation here, where Cringer's hiding in the sand.
Yeah, I appreciate this a lot too. So we get transformation sequence, and then
the sand explodes. And
it's a nice little touch. It's one of those transformation sequences that I always
breaks
like
up stock animation there. It's not just, which they would do on occasion. It was nice that they did that for a change here, you know, like playing up what's these little details that are going on in the scene, and not just, well, we're just going to insert and just pretend like Cringer wasn't even there because we don't have time to deal with it. Like, no, we're going to animate that, and it's quite glorious as they jump into action to take on the sand digger. And Malacta and Stanlan are quite shocked to see He-Man show up. And that screenshot's on the back of the VHS right there.
Oh,
not
really?
Not that's of any interest to anyone, but I just pointing that out.
That's cool. I've always been kind of curious, especially with those releases, having such limited space on the back, how they went about picking and choosing what they wanted to use, because I feel like obviously there's some on the back of them that didn't quite were the best interpretation of what you would see in the episode sometimes.
Sometimes they were quite intriguing. And in this one, they use the shot of Trapjaw sitting there with an exploded spider drone, and Masque is pulling his cape over his face.
Okay.
This shot, and then one of Shokoti holding the skull out. And you just see a hand. And when I saw it as a kid, like, what is that? And it's Stanlan's hand, you know, as he's being restrained by the Darklings. But it was such a scary image to see it on the back of the box. I mean, it's if you don't own it, people, it's worth owning. And the cover's cool because it's He-Man and the Reptile Man on the cover of the box. So it's pretty badass. But He-Man tosses the sand digger on its back.
Yep.
Back to the sand with you, Krabby, as he
spins
said,
him back into the dirt.
Yep. Which people were wondering why the sand digger didn't quite make it to the grand match of survival.
Yeah, there you go.
In the last episode, this is why.
Yeah, the turtle's greatest weakness.
Yep. And He-Man's there to let everyone know. I thought it'd be a good idea to keep an eye on you all, and I'll be close by if I'm needed. So Stanlan's like, all right, we got nothing to worry about. Cut right to Lord Masque. Like, oh, is that so? And seeing that shot there too, like that up there. I remember I used to think, is the pyramid buried right there? But it's not. The pyramid's underground. Yeah. So it's somewhere in that vicinity, which is clearly right below that big sand mountain there. And they decided to camp for the night. I used to wonder like how Cringer kept it together sitting in the back seat with Lord Masque.
Yeah.
You know, like how was he not like scared out of his mind to sit next to this guy who's not talking, who's not saying anything?
Clearly gives off weird vibes.
Yeah. And Lord Masque tells the Reptile Men, all right, start your attack as I lead the spell to uncover the House of Darkness. And they launch their assault on the camp.
Yep.
All hell breaking loose. And I like that we don't see another transformation here. It's just...
Yeah, because I feel like 2 in 1 episode might be a little too much. So I appreciate having the off-screen transfer.
Yeah, and it's nice because when you see him again...
Well, before this, we hear the noise Malacta and Orko go out of the tent. Everyone leaves the tent, so that's a prime opportune moment to go ahead and transform.
And they see this glowing around the mountain up there, which I'm taking as glow that's emitting around near the mountain. It's not like the mountain is actually on, it's glowing itself. It's just what's happening around that area, which they're convinced is happening up on the mountain.
Yeah.
But the reptile men, they come with their own version, their own source of technology as well. It's not just swords, shields, and creatures to ride on.
Yeah, it's cool steed though.
I love that. I found it to be a very imposing steed as a kid. Excuse me, as a child. I just thought it was very, very, very cool looking. Very unique cast of characters used for this and this was so great because the leader tells them the other two are in the tent. And you hear this thump, 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 and then the ashes are thrown out of the tent.
Out of there.
Yeah, it's just a badass intro for He-Man to enter the fight. And Battle Cat frees Ram Man in the group, and Ram Man's ready to go kick some ass.
So is Orko.
Yeah, so is Orko. Yeah, he's ready to go fisticuffs too, and knocks the hell out of one of the men out into a nearby body of water, which I would say is a quite popular spot in the sands of time. They have a big body of water like that. That's deep enough. Too. And Orko bags up some of the reptile men using the tent. And He-Man takes on the steed here, which I don't know if it's. I'm sure it was given maybe some sort of name in the script that James is probably hogging to himself, because he has everything else. You hear that, James?
There was this was asked earlier if James was going to maybe be here, and yes, the possibility did exist for James to show up tonight, but ultimately it did not come to pass.
Instead, he decided to go drink dinner and not join us. But when
I think he just went to bed. He just went to bed.
Hey, it's extremely late where he's at. We're
it's like midnight there.
Yeah, we're lucky when he can join us at all, knowing he's willing to stay out that late. But
there's more of the glow here.
Yeah, He-Man realizes that they're not all finished. We have one more villain to deal with, and he's all mine. Like He-Man's taking that personal. And the House of Darkness rises out of the sand, and he's stopped by He-Man, and he's like, yeah, this here we go, man. This is what we've been waiting to see, is He-Man and Masque duke it out. And I found this sand creature to be quite imposing as a child too. Yeah. That's just a very, you think sand monsters might be kind of like whatever, but I find this to be a very, very kick-ass looking sand monster that's created as like spur of the moment.
Well, when you watch it, when He-Man punches him and it just does nothing because he's made of sand.
Yeah, it's a very cool shot when He-Man slugs it and pulls back, and there's like bits of sand on his fist. It looks back like, oh shit.
Yeah, and
then it just drops right on He-Man there. Just look at that. That's such a cool looking, sand monster. Very simplistic, but the sand teeth and the eyes, like it's very beautifully done by Filmation. And
this is when He-Man is
engulfed by the sand.
But then we see this form
blast
under
out
Masque.
of the ground. Yeah. Very cool. Knocks Masque on his ass.
Yeah.
And another cool visual of Masque, standing there, cape exposed, the mask is glowing, and Orko is getting balls big enough to come in a dump trunk, as Terry Funk once said, and pulls the mask right off. That I thought was like, what the hell?
Mm-hmm.
And he's still talking after the mask is being pulled off.
Yeah.
I thought that was so weird, and as powerful as a magician Orko is. And people who are aware of the series, like he's up there. Okay, so for this mask to do that kind of damage to him, definitely says something. And that there's more to this mask here. It's not just a, it is. Well, I'll get into that a little bit.
And that's something that I guess we're going to kind of apply towards the end of this discussion. But you can just see from there. The mask being ripped off, he's still talking, as you said, and then Orko, as he's holding it, the glows around him, and it's essentially, it seems like it's draining him.
Yeah, it's harming him so much where he's like, he is taken out of action. He's taken back to Grayskull. The sorceress has to be the
sorceress has to take care of him after this.
Yeah, and that says a lot about what this character is, and I love that. The mask is dropped on the ground with an unconscious Orko, and before Masque can grab it, He-Man chucks the sword and cuts it in half.
which
and Masque
unfortunately,
dissolves.
yeah, I don't have here in the way
That's okay.
that we got. But this, the Masque is destroyed. He just kind of plops into a bit of, there we go,
Yeah.
a bit of nothingness, and I. For as intimidating and as scary as you put it, watching him as a kid in this first part, watching it as an adult, is there still that part of you with this? I mean, I know that we have a part 2 coming up here, but do you feel, man, like, that sucks? There's so much potential here. We're just going to do that, and it's done for now that we know of.
I when I was older, because I wouldn't watch this episode again until 11th grade when I got the bootleg set. And oddly enough, it was the only tape left out of the set when I got it, so I had to send off for it again to get it. So I had to wait even longer, and it really is like, oh man, like it was just I had such a great new appreciation for the characters because I was growing up, and it didn't make me feel like it was oh my god, it's it's like Freddy Krueger coming to get me or something like that. But not until I never had an idea of like it was. I found them more fascinating. Like I never really had thought about it too much up until probably several months ago when I reached out to you privately and said I had an idea to bring back Masque and Shakoti, and I started thinking about this conversation when Malacta says he's a very strange creature. He seems to be more of an evil shadow than a man, and I just thought about, okay, that's something that could be played around with here, and I'll wait till we dig into
when we get into the end of this.
But they say that at least Masque did us the courtesy of uncovering the tomb, and with him gone, it should be safe to explore. Madam says, I hope you're right, and that as a kid. Of course, this is on VHS, and it moves on to the next episode. But it's like, oh man, dude, I didn't, don't know who Shokoti is yet, but just seeing that visual and the to be continues. Oh man, yeah. And we get this wonderful moral with Ram telling you not to hit things with your head, which is quite sensible, and it just makes Ramman that much more lovable,
Well, that is part 1. While we load up part 2, we did have this question from Crom's Mountain. Can we get a close-up of both your shirts? So, Tyler, go ahead and go first.
Mine is my favorite one-shot character was Shakoti, Azrog, Spydra, Lord Terran, Lady Valterra was Sago, and Lord Masque. If you want one of these, Ren McKenzie did this for me. He illustrated it for me, so you can get this because there are no Shokoti and Masque apparel anywhere in the world other than on Ren McKenzie's TeePublic account. If you want to reach out to him personally, he's on social media or on TeePublic. He has a page. You can get that and a bunch of others that he's done for me as well. From Brave Star, he's done Spectre, Turtles, Spectre, G.I. Joe,
Silverhawks.
Yeah.
He's done a lot of stuff.
He did He-Man and Skeletor's crew for me, but they were both removed because Mattel said this too good and took it off. So, but there's some good ones on there. But if you want one of these, it is available on TeePublic currently right now.
And then, of course, mine is the Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, look how badass that is, people.
Yeah, Tyler's got a standee of this that he doesn't have displayed anywhere in his home, and it's
because I don't have room for it, but it's in my closet right over here.
You give it to me. I have a room dedicated in my house to Ninja Turtle stuff, and
no, that's okay. But that's what me and Nathan are. We don't want to wear what clothing everyone else is. We want original niche stuff, like things that no one else is going to have. That's the kind of stuff I want to wear. Also, Bionic 6 is also available on that same TeePublic account too for people who are interested.
And with that, we will move on here to House of Shokoti, part 2.
Scariest episode of them all, man. And this opening panning shot of the House of Darkness with the wolves howling in the background. And what makes these 2 episodes, especially this episode, is the use of familiar music that we would often hear in so many episodes, but the way it's used in this is what made Filmation stand out so good. is the direction and the use of already familiar music by Shuki Levy in the most effective ways. Like you have a different scenario. You have essentially a haunted house here in the desert with music that you heard before amps up. Like I was genuinely frightened of this opening and would become more and more frightened as a child as we get into the, we'll get to it here in just a little bit. But it's a great opening of establishing that they're here. They got the excavation set up. And I think originally too, it's in the book that Ram Man was supposed to be using the battle ram, I think, to help excavate around the pyramid, which was another scene. I don't know if it was ever storyboarded or not, but that was something that was supposed to happen at the beginning of this episode.
Okay.
But Stanlan, we're getting to see Stanlan is not just a kid. He is obviously pretty knowledgeable. And Malacta asks him, "What do you notice about the pyramid, Stanlan?" And says that the stones in the pyramid are not as old as the rest of the pyramid. So there's a layer of stone around the already built pyramid for a mysterious reason. That Malacta says that, whenever this pyramid was built, someone was afraid of something inside of it, and that wall keeps it from, getting out or from anyone getting in. And to find out what it is, we'll have to take the wall down.
Ram Man's like, I can do that.
Yeah, no problem. And knocks the hell out of himself. And I love it. It's like, oh, good wall, nice and solid. Just like he has an affinity for great wall building. And here we go, people. We get our first shot and voice work of Linda Gary in her Oscar-worthy performance as the scariest bitch in Eternia, man. The darkness. I see the darkness once again. That right there, people, that's something I'm going to come back to for our expansion of the character at the end of this discussion. And Raymond gets up with his eyes.
Just think about this. Like you break apart this wall, you expose this, and now she's talking to you. Like
what? And Malacta recognizes her right off. Either from, obviously not from the voice, he's never met her before, but right. He recognizes the emblem, the door knocker, so to speak.
Yeah.
And is oh shit. No. Guys, we are not entering, we're not doing anything else until it's daylight. And I love that it's he obviously at this point he knows who she is, what she's capable of, what her reputation is, and that Adam knows it too. And when he says, Raymond says, "Who is this Shakoti?" And Adam says,
"Well,
okay, yeah, go ahead,
yeah,
go ahead."
No, Ram Man just can't get her name right. So
the first of many jokes, which I never get tired of.
Yeah, that I like that part a lot, and you have to have that little bit of comedic relief during this. But we've just seen it in the chat here, Shapoopy.
Yeah.
What are some of the other ones, Tyler?
Well, he calls it Shabuti right here.
Yeah, Shabuti.
Who is this Shabuti? And Adam says Shakoti, and says that she was a wicked sorceress from the dark side of Eternia, which means the dark hemisphere. So that is something I definitely want to play. I want to go back and discuss when we start talking about. But and then Malacta, dresses Stanlan down. Well, see, the prince has been doing his studying, which Stanlan seems more about the experience as opposed to like, look, you need to spend a lot of time studying and learning about all these various things if you're wanting to get anywhere near to his level. And obviously, when you're a kid, like you want to explore, you don't want to learn and read books.
Yeah, books are boring when you're a kid.
And hey, it's very, very, very relatable. You want the action. You don't want to sit in the classroom. And they leave Ram Man to guard the pyramid overnight while the rest go back and sleep. And Ram Man hears laughing and like, wait a second here, people. Like, you do realize there's someone laughing at us from inside this pyramid here, or makes you wonder, is Ram Man the only one who can hear it at that moment?
Yeah, maybe. I would have maybe that's kind of her way of individually targeting them to try to lure them in.
Yeah, and obviously know about Shakoti. She thrives on fear, and trying to build up Ram Man's fear in that moment. Which will, and then of course we cut to Stanlan from afar, standing there at the campsite with the Cringer, looking at the pyramid, and he's fascinated by the Shakoti. Like, oh boy, that sounds so scary, Cringer's like, oh no, it's terrifying. And will we go into the pyramid at first light, sir? And Malacta tells him flat out, like, I'll be going in, you'll be going back to the palace, because we've already established Malacta is aware of what this is. This is no place for any child to be wandering into. Like, this is not a traditional, excavation, or we're going for a dig out in the middle of nowhere. No. We're talking a historical landmark of danger and death. And you know what? You don't need to tell a child that.
Yeah.
But also, and to Stanlan's credit, he's like, look, all I do is read books. I've never got to go out in any kind of, exploration with you. And Adam is also aware of, like, look, I know you're disappointed, but does not get the opportunity to say, look, Stanlan, we don't really have time to tell you how dangerous this place is, but Stanlan doesn't want to hear it. And says, like, everyone gets to go even cringer. It's like, I don't want to go. And tells him, like, to bed. I don't want to hear about it anymore. And Malak, I almost feel like it might be a parent to Stanlan.
That was brought up earlier, actually. Let me find it. Is Stanlan Malacta's adopted son?
I would totally work that into a story, because it would be nice to think that, for whatever reason, we don't need to know Stanlan's where he really came from, but it would be nice to think that, much like Indiana Jones with Short Round, he, maybe realizes, maybe found Stanlan at a place that, he was checking out. His parents were killed by a shadow beast or whatever reason, and decides to take him in. And Stanlan takes a great interest in what Malacta does, and really wants to be a part of what he does. He admires, like, you're looking for treasure in all these forgotten places and tombs and castles, and what child wouldn't be fascinated by that?
It could also be maybe Stanlan's parents were just like Malacta and went on these expeditions trying to discover things, and
maybe an accident took their lives, and Malacta takes him in.
Yeah, plenty of directions you could
go. Another very good idea there, man. See, I knew you were my best friend for a reason.
Because, I mean, you think about it, it's like Malacta couldn't be the only one that's sort of in that field on Eternia that's doing all these things. He's the best.
Oh, yeah. That's why the Royal Palace has him,
Yeah, but I would like to think that there are others that are out there that are...
He has to have... and that's something I kind of had for a sequel story, is that Malacta has colleagues, friends, cannot be the only archaeologist on the planet of Eternia, but he's one of the best, which is why the Royal Palace has designated him as the royal archaeologist.
Yeah, I would like to think that he has the colleagues. I would like to think maybe Stanlan's parents were part of that, and something happened along the way. Stanlan kind of stepping into their shoes as he comes of age, but still being the apprentice, not quite there yet to be Malacta's equal, or like how his parents were or something.
Yeah, when you feel like too, and before we touch on this beautiful sequence here, it's almost as like, Malacta is like, look, I don't just run into these places with a shovel and a pickaxe. Like, I have to learn and study what I'm going to be looking at before I can even dare wander into these territories that may be surrounded by very predatory wildlife, traps, all kinds of things. So you have to do your and Larry Taylor made a point, like, that's something he likes to put in his stories, is the use of reading. And I feel like that's one of the things that Malacta holds in high regard. You have to take time to learn about what this planet's about. You can't just go wandering into all these forbidden or unknown territories and just assume, well, X marks the spot,
Yeah.
And Stanlan just doesn't quite grasp that yet. And this music that plays is so atmospheric. The panning shot of everyone asleep, and Stanlan is just pissed off, doesn't understand why he can't get a shot at this, and is like, it's not fair, and I'm going to see this no matter what I have to do, and decides to get up in the middle of the night. And he goes prepared with lantern, rope, and I still cannot figure if it's called fossil crystals, but they're obviously almost like glow sticks, or exploding glow sticks.
I would say too, maybe akin to like Flint as well.
Yeah.
Like if you like smack them together, like create.
Yeah.
But yeah, the glow stick's probably the better.
Something a lot, which like, okay, he's not like going in completely unprepared, but I like that moment. And then that which we don't have it here, but when Cringer wakes up and hears the tent open and he immediately says Stanlan, and Stanlan's gone, and gets up and looks outside the tent, and just we see the shot of Stanlan run in the music, that atmosphere. Again, music you've heard a thousand times in this series, but it has so much more impact with the situation that we're going to find ourselves in when he sees the silhouette of Stanlan running towards the pyramid. And he said, "Oh boy!" And then we cut to this panning shot of this amazing use of this music of Ram Man standing in the middle of the night in front of the door.
Yeah.
You know, and he's like, "Shabooey, shashui, wicked source, nothing to worry about." Oh shit! And he hears her laughing again.
Yeah.
It's brilliant work. John Irwin, God bless you, man, for making Ram Man such a lovable character, and this is his finest performance. And him like looking around, it looks up at the headstone of Shakoti and seeing it glows, and he just starts shaking. No problem. Do. And then Scanlan, Ram Man, oh shit! And just jumps up and
it jumps up here
on the spotlight. He's like, I thought you were a mushroomy. Which the name just continues to get more and more botched.
Yeah.
And Stanlan just pleads, like, Malacta sending me back tomorrow. I'll never get to see any of the pyramid. Can you just let me peek around through the door? And Rayman, I love this. Like, I don't think I should. Prince Adam said, and then Stanlan cuts off. Please. And Rayman is just, he's a lovable guy. He's probably like the kind of cool uncle you want to have. He's like, all right, you know what? Just once behind the door, and hits it good and says, good wall, solid. This scared the shit out of me because the music kicks in, and Stanlan's all he's concerned is he's worried about Raymond. And when he's like panicking, Shakoti starts laughing from the head, and these tentacles.
Yeah, these tentacles just come out from underneath him. Like, oh man,
what the hell is that? As a kid, like these tentacles come out of the wall and pull him up. And there's a shot. If you watch it closely, there is one tear on Stanlan's left eye that when he's looking at Raymond, when the tentacles grab a hold of him. So he's genuinely scared and frightened now. Like, it's not about checking, what's behind the door. Like, oh my God, my friend is hurt. I'm here all by myself. Like, this has gone completely bad immediately.
It's gone sideways pretty fast.
And this right here is the most iconic transformation in the entire series, in my opinion here. When they come over the sand dune and Prince has that look right on his face and Cringer's crawling up, and they hear Stanlan screaming, and he evaporates into the pyramid. Now, again, that was another thing as a kid. Like, what is that happening?
Yeah.
And when Cringer, this is the greatest line, and you can mark this right now. This is the greatest line Cringer has ever said in the entire series. Adam, in 2 seconds, I'm in the royal palace, so you better lift your sword now, like encouraging the transformation. Because he knows what's going on. I'm scared shitless, but if you want to get this done, we got to do this now.
Yeah.
And boom, I get goosebumps every time I listen to this transformation, because it just, where He-Man's taking on the scariest character in the series. He's facing it head on. Man, Shakoti, man, I'll kick her ass all over the place, And this moment where Battle Cat leaps on the wall, scratches at it. The scratches like dissolve.
Does nothing.
And He-Man says, "Look out, Cat." And he reaches up, pulls out the sword that slices it right through her face, and she's still laughing from the inside.
Yeah.
Oh. And then we cut to the interior, and it's just quiet and moody and atmospheric. And then this glow. Oh my God, boy, I don't have to tell you, this scared the shit out of me. Her voice, boy, come to me, follow. And the way she says, follow me. Linda Gary, I can't wait to meet you, And that'd be one of the first people I want to meet when I get to heaven, and just tell her what a wonderful job she did with this, which is enough to scare the shit out of you. And then He-Man and Rayman are looking around, and I love how He-Man says, "I don't quite trust everything I see in this place." And then we cut to Stanley. And there, all right, this is one of those moments, and that I was alluding to earlier.
Mm-hmm.
During this episode, when the mood kind of lights for a moment, I felt safe. So when Stanley and the music that you've heard, this is kind of like Royal Palace music here.
Yeah.
You know, he's walking over to a wall and trying to read something. Okay, we're safe at the moment here. He's trying to read some foreign language on the wall. Like, we're okay. And then he gets frustrated that he can't read it, and then he hears this growling down the hallway. To this day, I was like, what the hell is that thing? I call it a demon rat.
Is it named in the
I don't think so. I don't believe it is.
I'll flip through it again later and see if it was.
It may be, but as a child, I had no idea what it was. It frightened me. It's coming out of a hole to eat Stanlan in this place that's already scary enough as it is.
Yeah,
it's massive, and it's just on VHS you couldn't quite make out clearly when it's running in the dark.
Yeah, and so, it's like a nice little corridor chase right here.
Oh yeah, and Stanley, all he knows is just run.
Yeah, it honestly reminds me of just like an alien movie in tight spaces, getting chased by a xenomorph, or just I think of any other kind of horror film that does this: creature, small space, corridors, little tiny tunnels, whatever. Like it's
unbelievably atmospheric. And what we with Stanlan is stopped in his tracks by the massive floating head of Shakoti saying "Welcome, boy," and then laughs at him as this creature's coming up behind him to eat him. And as the creature comes forward, Shakoti fires a blast from her eye to scare it away, calls it vermin. And when she says, "Did he frighten you, boy?" and he's like, "Oh my God!" Like, you see him turn his head. Her head appears, and then the rest of her body.
Yeah.
And
there she is.
Yeah, and all of her sexy, scary as hell glory, man.
Yeah, it's kinda...
I couldn't help but wonder if she was like a vampire.
Because with the teeth, it kind of
is all about the teeth. Because I think I've said many years ago when we talked about this before, but she reminded me of the cover art for The Howling 2 and Fright Night 2, which was two women with pouty red lips with fangs. And I just associated those two movie covers with her when I watched this as a child. I didn't know what those movies were. I just thought, oh, a scary woman with fangs, and he wonders, like, are you a ghost? He says, "I'm Shakoti. This is my house, and you're the first guest I've had in a long, long while." There we go. There's Fright Night 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see that. What was the other one? You said The Howling 2?
The Howling 2, yeah. The VHS cover for Howling 2. I've never been able to sit all the way through.
It's some Red Brown action in there.
Yeah, and Tom's like, you gotta check this movie out. I finally started to watch it several months back. I'm like, oh my God. I still haven't finished it. Yeah. That cover right there in the Beyond Video store that I went to, which was the same place that I rented this from. Yeah, little bits of background trivia for myself there for you people if you're interested. But right there, look at that, like solid black eyes.
Yeah,
just the headpiece on her, like look at that.
Yeah, there's the teeth.
Some scary shit, man. And this wonderful panning shot of her throne room, with the black pool where the sleeping beast sleeps. And you see this, and again, music we've heard a lot, but has so much more impact in its use right here, where the tentacle comes up, scares the shit out of Stanlan, and she just looks on in its dark beauty of what this thing is down there.
Yeah, because you only get the teaser right here,
right there,
part of it.
And she tells him it's the sleeping beast, and soon he'll rise. Well, what will happen? The living darkness will cover the world.
Ugh.
And right here, this moment here, when he says, she starts walking away and says, Shakoti will be mistress of it. And he says, I think I better be going now. Malacta will be very worried. I thought, okay, you're getting out of here. And she turns and comes towards him and like, oh, you can't go now. Oh, I'm getting goosebumps in my face as I'm telling you this, man. That was frightening to me as a kid. Oh my God, you got to get out of there. And you may stay and meet. Oh, and I was like, what the hell are these things?
You're just spending the entire part 2. What the hell is that?
That's how my little mind was thinking. Like, oh my God, like, what are they? They got mouths and tentacles. And I was like,
what else is going to show
it's
up?
like, oh my God, man. Like, we got to get out of here. Which is why I did not rent this tape that much as a child. I really didn't. It was maybe less than a handful of times. Enough to like.
Let me ask you this, because obviously it scared you. Did you have nightmares about this afterwards?
I honestly didn't, but it was genuinely frightening. Like, I didn't go
surprising.
to
That's surprising.
The movie horror characters like Freddy and Chucky and Michael Myers really got to me as a kid. Shakoti, though, and much like the Wicked Witch of the West, like I loved watching The Wizard of Oz as a kid, but I dreaded seeing the Wicked Witch, and that's how I view this. And because it was a He-Man cartoon that genuinely scared the shit out of me, I was like, I've compared it to that sequence in Pee-wee's Big Adventure when he's saving all the animals in the pet store and he keeps looking at the tank of snakes, and he keeps going by like, I'll get them later. And he keeps going, I'll get them later. And he finally looked at him like, oh. And that's like when I've cycled through all the movies at Beyond Video, I'm like, oh God, I haven't rented the House Shokoti in a while. I guess I better rent that one. That was kind of how I viewed that.
Or you just look at it, it's like, well, I guess I better be going now.
Yeah. And then I hear Shakoti call out and follow me, rent me for the weekend.
Rent my tape, boy.
Oh God. And I'm watching it by myself. My brother wasn't interested in watching it. He would have been indifferent to it. So I'm just sitting there in our room upstairs, or when we lived over here in Radford, just, oh my God, I can't believe I'm watching this right now. And He-Man, and I had no comfort at all in how alpha He-Man is in this episode. Like I should have been so like, He-Man's going to take care of this.
And I'm surprised you weren't. It's like, well, He-Man's got to save the day.
Well, see, there's a moment that we're going to come up to here in a little bit, which pretty much obliterated that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm watching this again today, and I'm like, okay, whose skull is this?
Oh, I've wondered about that too. And when He-Man, which we just glossed over, that Ram-Man was getting ready to hit Ram into a wall, and He-Man's like, wait a second, let's take a closer look first, and then touches it.
Sorry to interrupt you. Could this be Masque's skull that she keeps nearby with her? Because it goes to Masque being the shadow, right? So he's not maybe human at one point. Maybe this is his skull.
Well,
no,
you're catching on to something I had an idea for, but my thinking was this.
Okay,
this was just probably a random victim skull.
Okay, all right, yeah, we'll save that part for when we get to the end here.
Is that when He-Man discovers the illusion, tells Ram-Man, it was probably a trap for you, and Shakoti's looking on and pissed off, like, they discovered my illusion, and throws her hand up, who are they, boy? And he looks in the skull and sees the vision of He-Man, Ram-Man, and Battle Cat. And he's like, oh, man, they're coming to rescue me. And she's looking on and says, how delightful. That right there is the kid's like, oh, my God, all bets are off. Like, she can't wait to see He-Man. Like, oh.
In this moment, too, I wouldn't be surprised to see that this Darkling maybe kind of, like, tighten up a little bit around the neck after he talks.
Kind of like the parasite in Alien when you tried to touch it. And pull it off, that coils around the neck. I would love to see more Darklings illustrated in He-Man mythology. And of course, as we come to this mirror in the middle of the cavern, it turns into the visage of the Shakoti coming out of the mirror, and Ram-Man goes, "It's Shapoopy," and she's like, "It's Shakoti, you fool," or Shakoti, you fool, excuse me. And very menacing. And this is a moment that when I got to realize this is how alpha He-Man is. He goes, "Where's Stanlan, witch?" Like defiant, like I don't care who you are, and she just laughs. And I'm so much more than a witch. And when she opened her mouth and expands, and He-Man's going to walk into this fanged mouth, You talk about like we're in the mouth of madness here as a 4-year-old watching this. Literally, He-Man's going to the mouth of madness here, and she just laughs and transports them closer to her. And oh my God, yeah, into the shadows with you, Darklings. The heroes are coming, and she's just sitting there anxiously awaiting He-Man to break into her throne room, like it's been sealed up. And he slashes it open, and he says, hey, "Look out!" And he throws one of the fossil crystals or fossil, whatever you want to call it, at the Darklings. It's almost like it's at some point he's realized, or maybe just out of sheer, this is all he's got. His lantern's missing, which that was in I think a deleted or a cut segment where they're supposed to come across his lantern in this.
Yeah.
But he throws the crystal and it scares the Darklings off, which tells you right there, whatever's in here is afraid of bright light in general, much like the Gremlins. Not just sunlight, but bright light in general.
I would like to think that it's what he's got. I don't think he really knows that. Yeah. But I guess at the same time, you could probably put that together with her mentioning not seeing the surface, being in the dark, doing all that. Maybe hey, it couldn't hurt, right? So I would like to think maybe it's a little bit of both. It's a little bit of desperation of what he has on him, but there's also the thinking too. Because I mean, he's a smart kid. He's been learning under Malacta.
Yeah, but having no knowledge of what Shakoti is.
Yeah.
I think you're right too. It's like I don't have anything else on me. He just realized he's got these crystals. Let me just throw one, and by God, it scares the Darklings off. And projecting bright light to Shakoti is definitely a weakness for her. So much that he realized that he does it twice. And then the Darklings, of course, are in attack mode, and Ram-Man says, "Let me at him," and they just disappear. Knocks him out against the ceiling, and He-Man slashing at him, and Shakoti knocks the power sword out of his hand, and she says, "You cannot fight the darkness, He-Man." And He-Man just tells Sam, "Run, get the hell out of here."
Yeah.
And here we go. This where the Darklings just overpower everybody: Battle Cat, Ram-Man, and He-Man. Look at that! It's just like a nest of Darklings.
Yeah, I mean, they're really strong when there's a bunch of them like that. Which is why the Darkling did not go as far in the Kumite that we had, because it was only one.
Only one, and they clearly thrive in darkness, which they're in a dark temple. There's no lights, there's no torches. And this, oh God, her menacing laugh, those fangs, like, oh my God. It's so badass and so cool. And they struggle trying to get out of these binds made from the Darklings, and Shakoti just tells them, "Don't struggle, sleep," and knocks them all out. And you're like, oh my God, they're all.
This is when all your comfort goes away, right?
I'm like, man, it's just Stanlan and the sword, like, and this is a great moment because this is meant to like essentially target children.
Yeah,
because what we're all scared of the dark, and this is an episode that's meant to be scary. It was. Even Larry Taylor said, "I wanted to write a horror story," so there is no like misconception. This was written to scare the hell out of children. So for our child protagonist here is scared. I'm like, oh my God, like He-Man's in trouble. I can't do anything. And then the sorceress comes to Stanlan through the sword and tells him that Shakoti's power is through fear. This is what she thrives on. Like darkness, she's all about darkness, but fear, she thrives on that. Much like a lot of great
Freddy Krueger.
Freddy Krueger
is immediately comes to mind. I always thought about that as a kid. I wish at some point that my dad would have told me, "Hey, in the movies, he's defeated because whoever is not afraid of him anymore.
Yeah,
there's no fear." Of course, Dad wouldn't do that because he wanted me to be afraid.
Yeah, he relished in the fear. It's like, be afraid, Nathan. Here's this little Freddy doll that you wanted for Christmas.
From Matchbox. Here you go. Let me set it right there in the little corner net that all of your other stuffed animals reside.
Thank God you hadn't seen part 3 yet, when the doll drops on the floor and then grows to full human size.
Well, I think at the time period when that came out, we were young enough, and I got that. We were like 5 or 6. So by 89, at that point, they were already at what, Elm Street 5, 4.
The Dream Child came out in 89.
Yeah, I think that's when it was getting heavily promoted on MTV and everything.
Oh yeah, because I remember seeing Freddy Krueger. I think Robert Englund was on some sort of show on MTV that for whatever reason, Told my mom, let me know when it's on so I can watch that.
Same. I was at my grandparents' house and put that on. And I was like, why am I watching this? And
I didn't get it either, but I'm like,
yeah.
I was outside playing and told my mom, when it's back, let me know. And I run in to watch, I guess, what was a sequence from the movie. Like, but like you and I and others I've heard, and I'm sure others who listen to this, when you're 4 or 5 years old, wandering the video store, you're drawn to the things that scare you the most. And seeing Freddy Krueger on VHS boxes, I was drawn to that hook line. After I picked up my He-Man tape, I got to go look at the Freddy and Joel's VHS boxes, because it was like, I heard someone in a documentary not too long ago say that we're fascinated by the things that want to eat us or come after us. Our predators. We're fascinated by our predators.
Yeah.
That's why we look at sharks and alligators like, oh, they're fascinating, but they'd eat you without hesitating. Freddy Krueger, Michael Myers would kill you without hesitating.
Yeah.
But it's those images, like we just like just to sit back and just like, when you're a kid, you watch it on TV or get the balls to watch it on tape and then realize, oh, you're all right, until bedtime rolls around. You're like, oh my God, what have I done?
Yeah. I did that when they would do those Friday the 13th marathons on USA. You're watching during the daytime. You're like, this isn't so bad.
Yeah.
It's not so, because all the gory stuff's cut out because it's on TV.
Yeah.
So you get the tense scenes where the music's playing, something bad's gonna happen, but you don't really see it. And you're like, that's not bad at all. And then, as you said, bedtime rolls around, sun goes down, it's bad.
Well, I had the opposite effect. Watching Nightmare on Elm Street on the USA Network on a Sunday afternoon, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm watching this. And then come bedtime, boy, you talk about World War III with my parents. And my dad sat there willingly watched it with my little brother and myself. Like, no, you didn't say you guys aren't watching this stuff. You guys are too young. Like, oh my God. Watching Heather Lane can't go up the staircase and the steps are sinking and Freddy's peeking his head through the door. Yeah. Like, it's terrifying, man. It scared the shit out of me, man.
But the sorceress is saying the power here is the fear. If you do not fear it, she has no power.
Yeah, fight her with the sword. You have the power sword. And of course, he's left to figure it out on his own, but that's when he's got to get the courage to walk back in that throne room and confront, the scariest lady in the universe, as she's summoning the sleeping beast out of the dark pool to come and eat He-Man, Battle Cat, and Ram-Man alive. Which is I'm sure people know. I'm not as familiar with H.P. Lovecraft as most people are, but this is an episode that's heavily influenced, and Detillier said this was a Lovecraftian episode, and it was done purposely. They toned down some of the stuff, of course, but there are Lovecraft stuff used throughout the He-Man series as well. But this is Lovecraft for sure. And for people who don't know, if you don't have the Filmation Encyclopedia, there's a deleted sequence that there's a shot of it in the book of a snake bat that attacks Ram-Man and carries him off. And that is one of the Lovecraftian creatures. It's called something else. But at the end of this episode, Ram-Man mentions, and the snake thingy is a reference to the sequence that we did not get. But there is a shot of it in the book.
I should have scanned those pages.
That's all right. People have it, or we can if people really want to, we can find ways of showing people that. But Stanlan comes in and pretty much throws down with Shakoti, tells her to stop it, and she says, "Away, boy!" And he's holding the power sword out in front of him, being defiant, and repels the blast, and it unlocks our heroes. And that He-Man thing kicks in and he gets up and says, "We're free." And Shakoti says, "Curse you, boy." And it doesn't matter. The beast lives again. Stanley gets him this power sword, and they're ready to take on the sleeping beast. And Ram-Man knocks looks to be like a steeple or a stone bench into the mouth, and it crunches up like it's nothing.
Yeah.
And He-Man says, "Take Stanley and get going. I'll give it something bigger to eat." And goes up behind this massive, which is only seen in passing twice, this massive statue of Shakoti. And He-Man's going for the ultimate leg press workout right here, people. and shoves the whole thing and just knocks it unconscious onto the sleeping Mace, knocks it back into the pool, either killing it or knocking it unconscious for another God knows how long.
I would say just knocked it out.
Yeah.
I wouldn't think that it killed it.
No, and then Shakoti is just like, feels like she's just like, oh my God, and screams and vanishes. And then we cut to morning. And it's hard to say what Malacta is doing. Hopefully, maybe he's still asleep.
I don't know.
But because they're going to spare Malacta, what happened, because Stanlan realizes that what he did was very foolish. And I was like, well, now that you know that, we'll spare Malacta details, but you're going back to the palace tomorrow. He's like, yes, sir. And Ram Man finally gets the name right. Gets the name right after Cringer says, can I go back too? Or don't you think I should go back too? And Ram says, oh, you're not still scared of Shokoti? It's like, Ram, you said it right. What did I say right? And we have a good chuckle at his expense there, because Raymond's a sweetheart of a guy. And our wonderful moral here is, Adam reminding you, don't go into unknown places like me and Nathan did many years ago.
Oh yeah. Don't go to abandoned houses.
Abandoned houses or caves, because it's just dumb, as Adam says. All right. Well, now before we get going here, let me take a quick bathroom break.
Yeah. Well, while you do that, I will load up some of these comments that we had, and I'll say hello to a few people that we've had here. So, Croms Mountain, hello. MC DJ ACDC, Johnny Cock. Of course, Fedmon, always hanging out here. Shaboopy, speaking moistly, wasn't afraid of Shaboopy. Sobek, finally getting to catch another live. So hello, Papa Huds. How we doing? Doing good. So we're coming at you tonight on a Tuesday because Tyler will be out of town for the weekend, so he won't be here for the Friday show. And then the way that it's looking, I think next week we'll probably catch you on a Friday, and then the following week, I think that's when my schedule is more than likely going to change. So find us, it'll probably be Saturdays or Sundays, depending on what we got going on in our personal lives. I was just saying hello to everyone. Tyler, a couple of comments here before we move on. Sobek saying Howling 2 is a classic.
Oh, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
And then Crom, yep, I remember being 7 and my brother rented Evil Dead 1. Couldn't sleep for a week after that.
I can understand that had I seen that at that young age. Nightmare on Elm Street in the first Child's Play, and what's weird is that I saw large chunks of it, but never their entirety at first. But it was enough to scare the shit out of me for a long period of time. And so much so, I remember getting into a lot of, not say fights, but I just refused to go to bed by myself. or I just was convinced Freddy Krueger was going to come get me at night. I just knew it. And, it was a bad. I really thought I was going to grow up and go to college and be afraid to sleep in my own bed because I was so traumatized by Freddy Krueger. And now I have Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, the VHS movie poster on display in my den. Shows you how far I've come. Like if I could tell my little 7-8-year-old self, one of these days you're going to grow up
and really love this stuff.
Yeah, you're gonna enjoy it. It's great. And like, yeah, the first one's still scary as hell, but you know what? They're great. They're fun movies, and we actually got to see Robert Englund pass us in a hallway one time.
I keep forgetting that that part in Part 1 still like freaks you out.
God, because I saw that in 6th grade. I saw the second half in 5th grade. I saw the first half in 6th grade, and that's when I saw the whole Tina. And what's weird is, my dad slept with me and my brother. So, and I was still scared shitless. Like, you can't save me from Freddy Krueger. My dad could not get me to go to sleep that night.
Oh, man.
He was
he's over there. It's like, here you go, son, drink this. And it's like some Benadryl and like
we had nothing
punch,
like that.
Some Hawaiian punch.
His solution was do jumping jacks. Wear yourself out.
I could see that. I guess.
Yeah, but you don't understand. My mind was like fireworks. There was not enough exercise on this planet back then that was going to get me to calm the fuck down and realize after seeing Tina being chased down an alleyway, and then torn to pieces in her bedroom in front of her boyfriend. Like
that run wasn't goofy for you. That didn't take you out of it.
That to me, that was him fucking around with her. Like, I get people making fun of that, but when I saw that as a kid, it's like he's doing it deliberately. Like, I'm going to kill you. I'm just messing around with you right now. Like the extended arms.
Yeah, that's a good scene.
And when he jumps out and says, "Hey Tina, watch this," and then clips his fingers off, it's the lighting on his face is what made it so terrifying.
You know what? Maybe tonight, maybe I'll stay up a little bit longer. When Emily goes to bed, I'll just watch Nightmare on Elm Street.
Well, good luck to you, man. You can't sleep with me.
You still won't watch that movie at night, right?
Hell no. No way. Nathan bought it on Blu-ray when he was still living at home years ago.
Yeah.
And he put it on, and I still had to drive home that night. And I was like, I think I made it up to where Nancy, sees Freddy for the first time. Like, so it means you got to pass the freaky ass hallway monitor. And Tina in the body bag.
Yeah.
It was just like, okay, Nathan, I gotta go now.
I'll one up you on this. So when I was living in my townhouse, I bought these headphones for my PS4. And I'm like, well, you can watch Blu-ray movies on this. And so if I do that and put the headset on, I can really get the surround sound. It was probably like 3 a.m. And I'm like, I'm gonna put on Nightmare on Elm Street.
You got a death wish.
Let me tell you, watching that with headphones, if that movie doesn't bother you any other time, watch it with headphones. Because I put it with that and I was like, I'm kind of like, and I'm watching this alone. P.S. Like, total darkness. The only light that was on was just the glow of the television. Yeah. It was pretty sadistic. But I'm like, you got to do that sometimes. It's
that's why I get so bothered when people say it doesn't hold up, that it's not scary. And I know part of it plays in the fact that I saw it at such a young age, so it was very impressionable with me. But I still think the first Halloween is a very creepy as fuck movie.
Yeah.
There's certain moments in that I'm like, yeah, it's not violent or anything like that, but it's the music and the images that is what makes it so creepy.
But you got to watch it at night alone. That's what really sets the mood. Maybe have like a candle or something set beside you.
I think I'd rather look at my butthole for an hour and a half instead.
Well, we will move on here. First of all, say hello to Motu Matthew. Thanks for joining us.
Appreciate it.
Actually, let me put that right there. So what we're going to show off next is the deleted scene at the beginning of the episode. We're show the story.
If anyone is interested, this is pulled from a video that James Etalk put up on the Master Universe Trivia section of the official He-Man YouTube channel.
Link is down below in the description for that if you want to watch it, because they added the sound effects and music to the storyboards that were about to show.
The appropriate sound effects were all added in there. What in the music, which seemed pretty appropriate, probably what would have been used had this been actually animated and everything like that.
Yeah, so. And my plan was to show it in video form, but unfortunately, our good old friends NBC Universal wouldn't let that happen, even though this is a video that James made himself, which he had a good laugh about that when I told him. He was like, yeah, but I'm the one that I put this video together. And that's what I was expecting too, because I cut out everything but this, but it is what it is. But
they just have to come in and piss all over a hush puppies, man.
Yep. So I did the best that I could with this one. So this is all still frames, but this is a panning shot going from right to left.
This is at night in the sands of time. And we're going to actually see the nomad that's mentioned. He's riding on a slow tow at night, almost like he's falling asleep. We don't know where he's going. But you hear the sound effects of the slow tow, moving through the sand. The nomad is starting to doze off. And then he starts to hear this, rumbling. And next thing you know, the House of Darkness rises out of the desert.
Yeah. It says an extremely long shot, nomad watching, and then they react in shock, turn around and exit. And then we get the close-up shot of the pyramid.
And then who appears before us? But Lord Masque emerges for the first time out of the pyramid.
And it says free after all this time.
And then is immediately stopped by lightning and thunder and it's Shakoti talking to him from inside the pyramid.
Close up.
We look up at the pyramid and her visage, like, only to serve me, Masque. She refers to him as Masque. And I remember as a kid, I had no idea what kind of connection he referred to as a mistress, which we think a mistress is someone that you sleep with on the side.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, like, is Masque in charge of Shakoti as a kid, like, or vice versa? But seeing this helps add extra context to his purpose in the episode. He's just refers to her as his mistress, which, could go either way. Is he in charge of her, trying to let her out, or is he serving her? I didn't quite understand that as a kid.
We get the more Shakoti voiceover work. Watch over my house until the moon darkens, and my power is ... And then it says, "Bring terror to any who dare approach."
All about. It's a horror show, people. And it makes you wonder what her face would have looked like in the image that's projected outside the pyramid. Almost like you're trying not to see her entire face just yet.
Yeah, I think they wouldn't. I think they would have kept it like shrouded, and then we get more the full reveal that we get in part 2.
Yeah, brilliant. God, the guy that illustrated the storyboard, Don Manuel. He did a lot of the storyboards, and if you ever look at a lot of his, he does a lot of very detailed storyboards. A lot of the Filmation artists did like that, but Don Manuel is the one responsible for this one in particular, because James, I think, got the storyboards from him, because James just goes and hangs out with everybody just because.
Yeah, he mentions that in the video that we have linked below, that he met up with him. Matt says it shall be done. We get a longer shot there with more rumbling.
And the pyramid sinks back into the sand.
Yep. As Masque, as you see him right there.
Yeah, a good scale shot there.
Yep. Hold a beat on Masque and Barren Desert. So there is how part 1 was supposed to open.
Yeah. Pretty damn fascinating.
Yeah, it's interesting stuff.
Yeah. And I hate that we didn't get that, but it would have been hard to try and squeeze in that sequence, I think, just because of the time. I mean, the episode clocks in at the usual, timestamp of around 22 minutes, and which is how much most episodes were, along with the moral and the credits and everything like that. So it would have been very, very difficult to squeeze that in.
Here is our entry for Masque in the Compendium book. So we see other names: Lord Masque, weaponry, the Demon Masque, special abilities, sorcery, teleportation, and shape-shifting, as we see here with the skies, as which Tyler was correct with Raka. I think it kind of would have been cooler spelling with 2 Ks instead of 2
That would have been cool too, yeah.
But it just kind of gives you the overview of what happens in the episode. And then, of course, we'll get into this. Lord Masque, one of the few in the Classics line to not have a Classics bio. So we have this entry here that says, Lord Masque spent centuries in the sands of time searching for the House of Darkness, the enchanted prison of his mistress, Shokoti. He finally located her temple, raised it from the sands, but He-Man thwarted his plans. More of an evil shadow than a man, Masque could transform into smoke to make his escape. He was one of Count Marzo's teachers, and his power came from his demon mask, which he stole from Eldor long ago. So I guess there's a little bit of classic bio-esque there at the end.
Yeah, I'm not sure who wrote that. I don't think Scott wrote that, but I know our good friend Danielle wrote some of the bios, but I don't think that was her. Much later, I think after Classics ended, I think she wrote some of the bios for things for. She was commissioned to write some bios. I don't think that was one of them, though.
Well, let's kind of break this aspect of it down. One of Count Marzo's teachers.
Bullshit. No. No.
Stole his mask from Eldor, huh?
No. I do, and I'll get into a little bit more. But no, that can't work. And this may have been written well before that. The knowledge. I don't know how many people James shared that information with about the original deleted sequence, but it just shows he wasn't looking for the temple. This shows that he emerged from it. He knew where it was at. He's just trying to rise it up. this bio here indicates he was trying to find it.
Right.
You know, he finally located her temple. Like he was on, like he'd been searching for who knows how long trying to find that, and that's not the case at all. Like he knows where it's at, but we know even more that's even more relevant, but that he emerged from inside the temple.
We get Shakoti's entry here into the compendium book. So, Evil Witch of Eternia, and I have the classics bio that will show. So we won't have to read this one here. But trivia: Shakoti had eyes which were entirely black, an unusual trait shared by the Gar pirate, destroyer of the fighting foemen.
People ignore all that. Ignore the fighting foemen, Gar pirate, destroyer. Oh God.
But we were fortunate enough to get both of these characters in the classics line. So here's Masque, and we have a sword and a shield, which he was packed in with these things. But this, what's the story behind this?
They are New Adventures of He-Man weapons.
Yeah.
They just, I'm sure some people thought like, hey, we'll just give him this what looks to be like a lightsaber sword and a lightsaber shield. Kind of like, no, it's toys that were that New Adventures of He-Man were supposed to have. So that was their way. That was a fun way that the classics line, would get in. You release one figure, if they would look appropriate with other things, you would pack those weapons. Like Lizard Man came with Skeletor's skull sword. Yeah. And I think the Diamond Ray of Disappearance, I think, came with him also. Like, it was just a way of like,
I think it did.
Yeah. So it's just a way of like, here's some more accessories, but we'll just pack him in with characters. And I'm sure some people didn't know that or didn't care and just thought he looked cool with his own sword and shield, which I'm like, Masque doesn't need a sword and shield.
Yeah.
But I'm sure some people probably thought he looked cool with that.
Yeah. Mine is not displayed with the sword and shield.
Mine is not either. I gave those to, I forgot. I don't know who they're displayed with, but
Masque. If you have any other New Adventures classics figures, give it to.
I forgot what I displayed the New Adventures of He-Man with. They're somewhere around here. But
I think it would be kind of cool actually to maybe just get a cloth cape, get rid of this one, and do it where you can pose the arms up with the.
It's
cape.
A shame, that they didn't, and I think it had been if the Four Horsemen were still doing them today.
Yeah, because the Masque was one that was heavily requested, and he didn't come out until very, very late.
Yeah, much later. Like him and Shokoti both. This was like way deep into the line.
Yeah,
and it was a big deal to know that they were coming, and this was a line too. Is great things that were done with it. It was a low budget line. Like they couldn't afford to do the gimmicks that come with the figures. They couldn't afford to do a lot. It was pretty much just it's a figure. I think Roboto got to do his gears and his body, but you couldn't do the gimmicks that we got with the vintage line. It was just it's the figure. Here's some accessories, an alternate head maybe, and that's about it. But still, the best He-Man toy line next to the vintage line that we have ever gotten.
I mean, this line, I've said it plenty of times. That's the one that I have on display. That's my favorite line of them all.
It will never get any better. I mean, it could, but unfortunately, the powers that be don't want people to do it any better because they have their own idea of what better is.
But we get Shokoti here in the classics line coming with a Darkling, which honestly, I might eBay and see if there's some Darklings loose and just buy a couple more or something.
That's a good idea, man. Yeah.
At least have 3, right?
Oh, you have to have 3. If you're going to do it, it needs to be 3 at least.
All right, let's get a good laugh out of this. Here's Shakoti's classic bio. Real name Shokoti, so hey, at least they didn't.
Her name's not Sarah.
Yeah, they didn't name her Sarah. Sarah, got to give her a last name too.
Sarah from the House of Asshole.
Possessing incredible powers fueled by darkness, Shokoti was the most dangerous sorceress of the Dark Hemisphere of Eternia. Fearing her plan to cover the entire fearing her plan to cover the entire planet in darkness, Shakoti's fellow blue-skinned Gars lured the nefarious witch into the sunlight and buried her with her beast companion in the House of Darkness. Many years later, the shape-shifting wizard Masque raised the temple from the sands of time and opened the door to darkness once more until He-Man heroically defeated Shokoti and the Sleeping Beast forever. Shokoti uses the darkness and magic to cast illusions and project energy blasts from her hands.
bullshit.
So
She's not a guard. That's just, again, that was Scott's way of saying, okay, I'm going to tie everyone together. If you got blue skin, you're Gar, because that's what cycling was. And Gar means blue skin, Skeletor. Skeletor's a Gar. Shakoti's got blue skin. She's a Gar. It's lazy, sloppy Joe storytelling. It's just, it's horrible. It's lazy. It's embarrassing. And it just makes it feel like this world is not as big as we think it is when you have shitty writing like this.
So there was the classic bio.
Yeah. And all right, glory, people. I hope you enjoyed it.
Now that we've watched the episodes, now that we've seen the figures, now that we've looked at the bios and various depictions, either on the back of a card or in a published book, let's get to the potential. Because as I talked about earlier, especially with Masque in part 1, you only get a tiny taste of what this character is capable of, and boom, he's gone. And then, honestly, kind of the same thing with Shakoti.
Yeah.
Up until this point, it's just the projection. We just see her face. Once she's full-bodied, we're in there. We get with a tiny taste, and then boom, she's gone. So, Tyler, you've been sitting on some stories. Let's see what you got.
I told Nathan a while back. I said I got this idea for like a sequel of how to bring, especially Masque, back. And I wrote down like this plot outline, and I'm like, I really didn't think I'd ever get an opportunity to even talk about it. But I just thought when Malacta says he seems to be more of an evil shadow than a man, and like the mask is what, you severed the mask, then there's no more Masque. But I thought, like, what if the mask was a tool that was given to Shokoti that was created in darkness by the epitome of evil as a means of like giving her a servant. You put this mask on any willing individual and they become masked. They are no longer a human being. They have no memory of who they were. All they know is this mask. And that's it. It's just like the human body is gone. The brain is gone. It's just consumed with this demonic power. So if I just kind of thought, because this is a house of dark, she came from the dark hemisphere. So I always thought she had to have rose to power. And I'm talking about that. We're talking. I even thought too, one of the last battles that Hero, the most powerful wizard in the universe, would ever have would be with Shakoti.
Okay.
Like before he passes away, he's matured, because in the Hero storyline, he's young, inexperienced, but will be the source of He-Man and She-Ra's power. He's extremely powerful, but he's still young and up and coming. This would be at a point where he is matured. He's become a great warrior, very knowledgeable, knows what he's doing, and now he's come across the ultimate opposite of what he stands for. And I thought, if she comes from the dark hemisphere, that is a hemisphere that is just, it's all dark. It's never sun there. So if there's no Skeletor, if we're talking this timeline, the Horde have been banished. The Snake Men have been banished. There's no epitome of evil on this planet. So you got this entire hemisphere. No one's over there. That would have to be where the original House of Darkness had to have been constructed. And I'm not going to sit there and say that Shakoti started off as this super sexy woman who just manipulated men. Like, no, this is a woman who wanted absolutely. I mean, like, just was just a nasty woman to begin with. And I almost feel like trying to explain how she comes across this idea of like, or the notion of being consumed by, the devil, essentially.
I think that's sort of the biggest hurdle, is how you get her there. It's not something she's not born into the darkness.
No,
right?
It's something I think that she's drawn to. And I don't want to sit there and say, oh, she grew up in a poor family and people were mean to her, so she's like, I'm going to come. No, I want her to be mean from the beginning. Someone who is consumed with, I want more power. I want more control. I want more, and then learns and studies about
And then it's kind of maybe chosen to lead the darkness by the ultimate. I don't want to say devil here, but what you were alluding to
something
earlier.
that maybe the epitome of evil, the devil in this world, would see that this would be a worthy leader.
This would be the one to ultimately spread and cover the rest of the planet in darkness.
Yeah, and pure living evil, which is what I had illustrated here. Living darkness. That's kind of what I had in mind. It's darkness that is alive. Like, what is the living darkness? Like, if it would consume people, would it turn them into? Would it decay human beings? Would it warp them into creatures? Would they be possessed by pure evil and just look like the Evil Dead running around? Yeah. You know, we don't know, but that's part of the fun. It's like when you watch Alien or Predator or The Thing. Not everything is explained, and when you over-explain stuff, then you get shitty sequels. You know, but I feel like with this, she needs to be nasty from the beginning, and just pretty much just makes a deal with the devil, so to speak, in a roundabout way of like, I want to be the leader of living darkness. I want to spread it. I want to lead it. I want people to worship. Let them come before me. Let men surrender themselves to me. Give themselves to our, you know, this unbelievable, unholy creature in the name of the living darkness. And that's why I thought making her this you know, woman of evil temptation that would lure, you know, men to the temple to be possible priests, to be sacrifices. You know, her convincing these weak-minded men, if you're willing to surrender yourself to the living darkness by giving yourself to the sleeping beast, you know, crazy cult leader shit. Mm-hmm. You know, but then I thought, like, she would desire someone to help. She can't go out and about in the daytime. Yeah. If she wanted to expand from the dark hemisphere, she would need to find a way to make her way to the light hemisphere. She would need someone or something to go out and about, bring people to her house of darkness, you know, and that's where you need Masque, you know, and Masque would be what he is a devoted servant. What would he be doing as a devoted servant? What would Masque's purpose be? If she's wanting to cover the world in living darkness, you need people to follow that. You need people to be manipulated into thinking that this is a worthy cause to get behind. Not knowing that they're going to be eaten alive, and your children, your wives, or whatever are going to be destroyed, eaten alive, or God knows what.
So is this how you were talking earlier? Is this how the multiple houses would be constructed across the
much
land?
like, you know, just as an example, I didn't pull it from this, but this is an idea. Like in Conan the Barbarian, they say the towers of the serpent. First, there's a small snake hole. Now they're everywhere. Like these temples are popping up. So with no definitive evil on the planet at that point, if the Horde and the Statement are gone, Shakoti is taking over the Dark Hemisphere. Snake Mountain it's irrelevant. It's an abandoned headquarters of the Snake Men. It's no longer a threat to anybody. It's just there and it's empty. The House of Darkness, the original House of Darkness, had to have been in the Dark Hemisphere. And if she's wanting to grow and spread the living darkness, I could see her putting more throughout the Dark Hemisphere. And the one we see in this episode is the one that started it all. That was her attempt of trying to spread it in the Light Hemisphere.
So at this point, would this have been the only one, or would there have been multiple and all of them have fallen and this is the first and the last?
I would see it as it would hit, because then I think of the logic. I feel like, you know, word may have been spreading from the Dark Hemisphere, and then they hear about this one in the Sands of Time. It's far away from everything else. They're like the Towers of Eternity were have sunk into the planet at this time. There's no Castle Grayskull, and you hear about this pyramid in the Sands of Time that's you know, causing, you know, death and destruction. Like, but it only happens at night, and the goal is to spread more. I just think it would be the only one. And that hero would confront her, remove her body, and just trap her soul in the pyramid and sink it into the sands of time.
Okay, yeah.
And have a fortress constructed with its sole purpose to remind him or anyone else that if anyone ever tries to resurrect her or bring her back, that fortress is there to alert anyone, what hero or whoever comes after him, that look, someone is trying to resurrect or bring her back. Someone is digging around the location of the House of Darkness. Like we would just sink it, bury it. And then I started thinking, like, if Masque is in there.
Yeah, that's what I was going to get to next. Like, how do we get from that to Masque being back up on the surface? Unless you have...
Go ahead. This is where you have to bring in the aspect that Malacta says this line of exposition. After this pyramid was built, 1,000 years after this pyramid was built, someone was afraid of something inside it. They built a wall around it. So my initial thought is that after Hero vanquishes her, like removes her body, she's just a ghost locked in her own temple. Mm-hmm. I thought maybe after Hero passes away, the elders of Grayskull, who would be the next one, the next group, they're the ones I think that sunk the three towers. Because I can't see the sorceress at this point. You would need to have someone of unbelievable magical proportions to be able to just sink this, because the sorceress can't leave the castle. The first sorceress, I would assume. Right. So the elders at this point, that's why I felt this is going back, after the prehistoric era, maybe the dinosaurs are all gone. So the elders would, I think the idea is like, okay, just block it up. Just block the whole thing up. And I thought, what if someone who helped build the blockade around it was overly curious about it and found his way in or fell in and got blocked up along with and couldn't get his way out, and Shakoti used this feeble-minded worker,
put on the mask,
to put on the mask, and he's no longer a human being anymore, and he becomes Masque, or a new or not. I'm not saying multiple versions. Like, okay, this was Masque. No, I'm just saying like the mask was, either removed. Maybe it was.
Well, you can't look. You can't look at it as when the mask attaches it to another person that's a new version. No, as long as the mask is
the mask is whole. All your everything that like if Nathan, for argument's sake, was Masque in the very beginning, and the mask was removed or severed, all the memories of what Masque had before would pass on to the next body that it would consume, and you're no longer human. You just know everything that
you're Masque.
You're Masque.
Yeah, so Masque is Masque. It's just using different hosts.
Yeah, essentially, it's that's just kind of what I thought. It's just a uses the body as an avatar to just take over to keep going. But then I thought that might be the logical solution of creating Masque in general, is that Shokoti, after she was destroyed by Hero, needed someone to help her reemerge, which would give Masque a purpose, which also gives an opportunity to actually make this be the first time Masque actually appears. Is that this stone builder that falls in or gets lost or becomes overly curious and just manages to sneak in somehow and then gets barricaded up, becomes the Masque that we see at the beginning of this episode that was deleted. The one that emerges finally after all these centuries, that it's buried. The House of Darkness, it just allows Shakoti to get stronger. And she's been forgotten all these years. Everyone has no idea that she exists, or the few that do don't see her as a threat. We're talking centuries, eons of just growing and growing and growing, and allowing Masque to become strong enough and to raise the pyramid up from inside the pyramid to allow Masque to emerge, to prepare for her, return to Eternia.
Yeah.
Which was why he would want the fortress destroyed. That's why I thought like that would give a little bit of, purpose.
Yeah.
I don't want men from the fortress seeking out this pyramid. That's a distraction. I want all distractions destroyed. Hence why you would hire Trapjaw to destroy the fortress.
I do have one question though. If he's in there and like we have this guy that was helping to build all this stuff, gets curious, fumbles into this, and that gets attached to him. At this point, when it's all buried and they're there, how does he go about becoming stronger though? Because it's like, it's almost seems like Shakoti would be weaker because she's gradually being forgotten about over time. So how does Masque then become strong enough to?
I think that's why making her deal with the ultimate evil somehow, she was like, if I'm going to carry on and return to Eternia, I need someone to help me raise this pyramid up. I need a suitor. I need someone to go forth and, help make sure that if I'm going to emerge as more than a ghost, I need a safeguard. I need someone to go out into the world to prevent anyone from being even aware that I'm trying to raise the pyramid again. That I'm I think it's even alluded to in the Formation book too. It's like a line that I think that was omitted, but the idea that Stanlan comes to realize that she was nothing more than a ghost. Obviously, it's like she takes on ghostly form, but we don't quite know if she is full physical form. Not that it's necessary or not. You kind of led to believe that she is in physical form. But that she can only emerge in darkness. So obviously she has to strike at night. She's obviously her most vulnerable during the day. She's not going to emerge or attempt anybody to lure anyone to the temple if it's during the middle of the day. She thrives in darkness. Like that's when she needs to become. I feel like I'm losing my train of thought here. It's like the point is that I feel like she would need Masque to help keep things safe and secure so that she can build herself back up after all this time. Yeah. Even though obviously she's quite strong, because you see, obviously the Darklings and everything else in there, that demon rat running around. God knows how many things that thing's probably eaten, because it's gotten gargantuan. Yeah. So it had to have survived on something.
So do you think since it has to survive off of something, obviously there would have to be a chunk of people that she's already got there as it's going under, as she's sort of vanquished, and there's got to be people stuck in there too, right?
They would have to be, and
So I guess at that point, instead of having a builder stumbling into it, maybe one of them could be used to be Masque going forward.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been anyone, as a slave or a prisoner, victim, or someone who just got trapped, inadvertently. Didn't mean to, but she sees it as a means of okay, if I'm going to make my comeback, I need someone to go into the world to make sure that there's no one to stop me. He's only been around for 10 days.
Yeah.
Hires Trapjaw, hires the reptile men, and goes after the fortress. So he's only going after the immediate threats.
Yeah.
He's not thinking about Castle Grayskull. He's not even aware of who He-Man is.
Right.
So it's immediately just prepare for my arrival. Keep things safe. Scare the shit out of anyone trying to approach the pyramid. Like, he only has one purpose, is to be a safeguard for the temple while she's gradually working her way back into the world, and obviously I feel like thrive only at night, which means he would need to lure victims to the temple at night, to be consumed by, into the pyramid, to be lured to the sleeping beast, and increase the strength of the sleeping beast, increase her power as it grows. She grows more powerful, but it only happens at night. So she has limitations, so much potential here, dude.
Yeah, it's a good way to give a little bit of enough of a backstory without diluting it too much. It's like, oh, well, here's this, and this. But a good way to segue into the two-parter that we got. Having that being said, do you have anything as like a follow-up? How would they return after the events of the two-parter?
Hang on here. that is what kind of got this thing going to begin with a while back. Is that I thought that's where I got the idea of the mask itself would be what would create Masque. So I had this idea that Malacta had a colleague around the time that the House of Darkness, around the time right after the events of House Shakoti Part 2. An old colleague of his, I think I called him, I even gave him a name too. If I can find it real quick, I'll bring it up to you guys here.
Do you just have like a big notepad that's just got like a bunch of story stuff?
Yeah, I do. I do. I just, if I get in the mood to start writing, I'm like, even if I'm like, I don't think anyone would be interested in this, I'm like, I call it Return to the Living Darkness is what I called it.
Yeah. Appropriate title.
I thought so too. But his name is Satat. And I think it looked up like evil Egyptian names. So I think that's where I pulled it from.
I mean, pyramids and all that. It being in the sand. It has all of those elements that really make you go to that space of just let's think about mummies and shit like that.
And I thought it just have something like that. And I thought this guy, and I even had how it would open up with it. This man in the sands of time, in the middle of the night, you've got these guys, 6, 7, 8 guys doing this excavation. This guy's up on the hill in this cloak. You can't see his face, and he's just standing there and just watching. And the sandstorm starts to emit, and it's starting to build up. And one of the workers named Juma comes up to him and says, "Look, we can't work anymore. Like the sandstorm's starting to kick in. Like, it's not safe for any of us." And the cloak figure says, "Look, I will triple your price if you guys will continue to dig into the night." And throws him a pouch of money. It's like to show I'm not messing around. Same for the rest of you guys, but I need you guys to keep digging into the night. And the guy looks at us like, "All right." And they keep digging and digging and digging and digging, and they find the resealed door of the House of Shakoti. And of course, he's talking to Shakoti, hoping that these ideas, like that she, needs a suitor. She needs someone to help bring her back, and he's talking to her like, "Please, I pray to you, like, accept my offering, and I will become your devoted servant." And the offering is the sacrifice of the workers. So as they're digging, it's in the middle of the night, and tentacles come out and emerge and pull in every one of the workers as he's up on the hill watching in the middle of the sandstorm. And the offering's been accepted, and she tells him where you can find the mask. The mask is in the vault of Malacta's laboratory.
Yeah. Severed
and remains severed. As it turns out, Satat is a colleague of Malacta's. That once he heard that the House of Darkness had reemerged, he goes to Malacta and says, "Look, you have to, let me in on this. Like, show me where it's at." And Malacta, "Absolutely not. I'm not telling you where that's at. No one needs to know where that's at. I don't even want to know where that's at." So they have their falling out, and he goes off trying to figure out, where can I find this? I have to find this. Is it really true? And becomes consumed and almost in love with the idea of this witch of darkness. Like, will make you this unbelievably powerful creature if you're willing to submit and obey everything for her. She will give you ultimate power. So he goes to the royal palace. This maybe a couple of years after the events, and just shows up. And Malacta is a little uneasy about it because of what happened the last time. And he's just like, "Oh, I'm just here to visit you." And he's introduced to Adam and Man-at-Arms. And Malacta tells him, like, "I don't trust him. This is why." And in the middle of the night, he breaks into Malacta's laboratory, into the vault, and finds the severed mask. And realizes there's only one place on the planet I'll be able to reforce this thing. He goes to the Dark Hemisphere and finds Spikor, the blacksmith of Skeletor. and pays him to reform the mask, forge it back together. And Spiker was in the middle of working on the terror claws for Skeletor. That was just like a fun little nod. Like, and stop what you're doing. I will pay you 4 times whatever you're doing right here. Put this mask back together for me. So Spiker like forges and seals it back together, and he puts the mask on, and it just intense pain, screaming, yelling, falls to his knees, like, and Spiker's like, just like taken aback. Trapjaw walks in.
Oh, not again.
Yeah, not again. And he stands up and hears Trapjaw behind him, and then turns and faces him down and pretty much lets him know, I'm back, and real terror is gonna enter. I had a little bit of dialogue written there, but it's not the best. But that was my idea of how to bring Masque back. And then we're off and running to things are starting to happen in the sands of time. And that's about as far as I got with it. I thought it was really important to, like, how do you bring back this character? The mask has been broken in half. And I thought, if you put it back together, what would happen?
Right.
I just felt like kind of empty if it was just, it's back together, and then he just kind of reforms like that.
Well, I like the idea of he takes it to Spiker. Spiker puts it back together. Immediately, it doesn't do anything yet. He grabs it. He was like, I don't understand.
Yeah.
And then as he like kind of holds it a little bit closer to look at it, that's when it glows. And then that's when it, like, I think of Jim Carrey's The Mask, when it's got like that detached, like that it's wanting to attach itself. So when it's doing that, you hear him scream, and then you hear what is the character's name again? You hear him start to scream, and then when it like melds to him, that's when
he's no longer Satan anymore. He's what Lord Masque was before. And that's why I just thought that'd be a great use of, like, the mask is a weapon. It's a tool that serves Shakoti. It takes over someone and is only there. They give some ultimate power, but
the only purpose is just to serve her and nothing else.
To lure people to the temple as sacrifices or servants, priests, whatever you want. I mean, is it? Who knows? She may not want anybody around, but she may love the idea of humans worshiping her and being willing to do anything for her, and then just feed them to the sleeping beast, or be destroyed by living darkness just to amuse her, or feed them to the demon rat, or something like that. It's just like she runs a house of horrors, but she's trapped in the light hemisphere, so she has to start there.
Yeah.
It's not like she can just,
go back
to the dark hemisphere and start it all over again.
Yeah.
This is what makes it the challenge. Like, she wants to come back in the hardest place possible. So that was my idea. I didn't go any further than that. I just kind of stopped.
Well, let me ask you this: in regards to the mask, would it still stand with that weakness of once it's severed, it's done, or would you kind of try to take that and reinforce it to where it wouldn't be as effective the next go around, and there would have to be another weakness?
I'd say Masque would realize, if I didn't think this little magician just pulling my mask off would just happen the way that it did. So I think he would make it a lot more difficult to approach him in any close proximity, for fear of anyone just being able to reach up and remove it.
That's when you give him a sword and a shield, like his classics figure. There you go. Boom.
Oh, and then Scott's like, oh yeah, I love it. But that's why I feel like, yeah, he would have to really reinforce the idea of like, not engaging in close combat, keeping his distance, obviously giving him a weakness.
Yeah.
Like, obviously someone who can create a lot of damage and destruction for a very dangerous cause, but he has a weakness, much like Shakoti has a fear of light, an intense fear of any kind of light.
Yeah.
So why shouldn't Masque have one? If you remove that mask and you're strong enough to find a way to sever it, but to think that the power sword is the thing that severed it, like you can't just have any generic battle axe or
that's true.
it would have to be something of great power. Hence, the power sword from Grayskull would be the one thing to sever it. So maybe She-Ra sword if she found herself, on Eternia or something like that. But I can't see any other weapon on the planet being capable of doing that.
Right. Well, there you go. Brilliantly done, sir.
I appreciate that, man. I hope everyone enjoyed our backstory expedition. Excuse me.
No, exposition. What?
Yeah,
expedition.
Expedition of exploring the House of Darkness.
Yeah, I didn't know which way you were going with that.
Yeah, I didn't either. I know what I was trying to say. I just couldn't say it.
Well, I'll show off a couple more comments. We'll take a couple questions if you guys in the chat have any. We'll go ahead and call it an episode. JSP saying here, Lord Masque, a character that should have had more than one episode. Absolutely.
Couldn't agree more.
Johnny here in the chat. I'll be honest, I've never seen Shakoti outside of maybe reading her entry in that Dark Horse encyclopedia.
Johnny, what the hell are you doing?
But damn, I can feel the excitement and investment in her in this talk.
Oh, well, please, I'm telling you personally, Johnny, watch that episode tonight, or if it's getting ready to go to work or go to sleep for bed or whatever, you have to watch that episode, and please leave us a comment that you watched it and what you thought about it. Like, this is unacceptable, Johnny.
And then go buy the classics figures, because I think those aren't too.
I don't think that it's not like trying to buy Fisto or Cobra Khan.
You can get Shakoti for about $40-$50.
That's not bad.
That's not bad at all, actually.
No.
See how much Masque is going for here. You can get them loose for $45. Oh, here's one on card for $44.99 with free shipping.
Now, come on, people.
Man.
Yeah, if you guys don't have it.
Yeah,
don't be waiting around for Masterverse to put them out.
Yeah, go get those classics versions. Oliver Belmont, I think this is something that was talked about before. Mark Taylor's original concept artworks of He-Man are being sold at heritage auctions for big money. No, not surprised, but I mean that it's good. I guess.
I hope they're going to homes where they are going to showcase
they're appreciated,
and not just like be someone who's just being a dick. Like, yeah, I've bought all this great stuff. I'm not going to show it with anybody.
Yeah, that's kind of the amazing thing about this property is that it's good that people like James were involved in this to where they could get all of these and scan the stuff and share it with everybody and put that knowledge out there, because you don't get this type of stuff with other cartoons as much.
Absolutely not. I mean, we're still learning more and more stuff from concepts and ideas. And I feel like, you know what, if we had access to people who worked at Filmation, there may be even more stuff we're unaware of that we thought.
Well, I mean, James has alluded to it before. It's like, Larry Houston's just sitting on all kinds of stuff. Not just Master Universe stuff, just like other shit that he's worked on.
It just
like, oh man.
Yeah, it's just it's this could go on and on and on with concept characters that almost were made into figures. Concept. I mean, there was a ton of concept episodes for Filmation.
Here's what we do, Tyler. We get in touch with Larry, and we talk to James. We get James fly to the States. We meet up. We fly out to Larry. We set up a camera. It's just us digging through all this stuff, but having a sit-down conversation with them about all these things, and then just have, I don't know, hours and hours of footage that we've shot, and then we just edit it all up and put it out there for everybody. That'd be amazing.
And we do it for free because we're not going to be a bunch of greedy dicks.
Yeah.
But I would love nothing more than to unearth who knows what else Larry's got, and all these other guys like Tom Tataranowitz or Tom Cito. Rob Lamb, like they've all been in contact with James. James got to dine with them and be the godfather of their children, probably, But I just, much like with our interview with William Stout many years ago, when I was like, Snake Mountain's in the movie, man. Like, no, it's not. Yeah, it is. Just there's so much. I refuse to believe that we had just this. This is it. Like, I feel like there's so much more, and just keep digging and looking at stuff. That's what I love about this property. This is the one thing more than anything else. Like, I just keep digging and rewatching and rereading and over and over and over and over and over again. This is what I do in my spare time, people. When I'm, by myself driving.
This is true. He will text me every now and again about that kind of stuff, and just I was thinking about this. I was like, oh, you want to talk about it?
Yeah, I even reread the sequel to the Ultimate Battleground mini comic that I wrote. Like, that'd be fun to share on the podcast. Because that was alluded to that hey, something's gonna happen, and we never got a sequel book to that. So I wrote it for a fan project that unfortunately never saw the light of day, but it was a 14-page mini comic that I wrote. And there's all kinds of other concepts I'd love for Nathan and I to discuss, like we've alluded to in past episodes, like the events of the live action movie. Like that's what the Cosmic Key mini comic should have been.
Yeah.
Everything that was, or setting up to encourage a child to go see the movie. If you want to see what happens next, you need to
build it up to where it leads into the beginning of the film.
Yeah, like the assault of Skeletor's troops on the city. How Evelyn, befriended Gwildor and then took the Cosmic Key.
Yeah.
All these little things that are mentioned in passing in the movie, like that's what the Cosmic Key should have been set up to encourage, and other stuff too, other characters and ideas, there's just so much to talk. I mean, just even when the last episode you said if Skeletor went to the future, not He-Man, and Dare was born, or I like to call him Dar. Dare is so lame. Yeah. Dar sounds cool, like the Beastmaster. Would that be the version of Skeletor that returns with the mutants and joins up with the rest of the evil warriors? And now it's like Hero is against two factions that have merged together, in that what if, as opposed to the idea that Skeletor's vanquished, but he'll just come back. He's just comes back. But if he were to come back as New Adventure Skeletor with new technology, new weapons, new aircraft to attack Grayskull and the rest of the planet, and it all falls upon the son of He-Man and Teela. You talk about the deck has been stacked against Hero. That's a Botchamania reference, people, if you're wondering why I said that.
Here's a question from Fedmon. Could Skeletor's Havoc Staff be just as much of a threat to Lord Masque as well?
I would never take anything away from making Skeletor the definitive Lord. He is the Lord of Destruction. I honestly, in my mind, Skeletor would destroy Hordak and King Hiss. Why not Lord Masque as well? Because it's like I'm not putting anything over on He-Man. I'm not putting anything over on Skeletor. He is the epitome of evil on the planet. And I look at Shakoti as someone who rose to power well before his presence on Eternia, and just became the most dominating threat before he ever arrived, and after the invade or the Horde and King Hiss battles that took place during the early days of Hero. But
I was thinking of who was it? Carrie cutting the promo. It's just like,
Oh yeah, yeah. Texas Tornado cutting a promo. All right, go. What town is that again? Cut. No, but He-Man's powers will be the only thing that could sever Lord Masque's mask. Not the Havoc Staff though. The Havoc Staff would put up a fight, but I'm sorry, the power sword.
I mean, obviously the Havoc Staff would be able to pull the mask away, but as far as
severing it,
probably not.
No, I could see a Skeletor maybe one, but the thing is, the mask was only created to serve Shakoti.
Yeah,
it's not going to do Skeletor any favors, because if he's holding on to it, he's got to fight the power of it, and not succumb to that.
And that's the thing too. Skeletor wouldn't want to sever it and destroy it. He would want to see what power it has to use. How can he manipulate this power to use it for himself?
But as we've seen too, Masque is still alive. Like the body is still alive with the mask being removed until it's severed.
Yeah,
you're going to have to keep fighting Lord Masque.
Yeah.
So it doesn't do anyone any good to try and remove it and study it and see if you can't harness the power of it.
That's true, unless it's just like a faceless guy trying to find the mask. Which, you could try to do that too, I guess.
Yeah.
Oliver Belmont here. I have a couple images for you. Tying it back to Reb Brown, have you seen the 80s sci-fi fantasy film You're the Hunter from the Future and John Norman's Goal?
I've heard of them. I haven't seen it, but Nathan's got the movie poster for one of those. That one. That's the one Nathan's got.
Actually,
I have heard of those.
I don't have the movie poster.
I could have swore you had that poster.
No, I almost got it because I was on a big Reb Brown kick.
I could have swore I thought you bought that poster though.
No.
Okay,
no. And then here's the series of books. There's like chronicles of this.
Okay, yeah, I had no idea it was a series of books though, but looks awesome.
I mean, you know, Tyler's bad at reading. He still hasn't finished that Batman book.
I haven't, and
I pre-ordered the sequel book. It comes out in October. I'll probably finish reading that before you finish reading the first one.
Oh God.
But Tyler, check this out. It's good cheese. I think you'll appreciate it. Yeah, you'll appreciate it way more now.
Oh, I know it would, because I know the Bad Movie Bible had mentioned that in his like barbarian movie knockoff video, which was a lot of fun to see that.
And then Tyler will watch it, and this will be his reaction.
Yeah.
All right. Well, one final comment here from Johnny Cock. Monetize the YouTube channel, and then you can write off those flights to see Larry Houston. That's actually part of the plan. I think we are finally going to monetize the channel and see if get a couple bucks off of this thing.
Yeah, maybe in a couple millennia we can afford to fly out to Larry Houston, and he'll be like, "Who are you guys again?"
Yeah, no, that's why we bring James with us, so James can be like, "Oh, hey, these guys are my friends." It's like, yeah, and then Tyler's like, "Where's your stuff?"
Yeah.
Just show me the
stuff.
stuff.
Don't you remember me? I'm the guy that kept saying you illustrated the greatest book of all time. He's like, "Oh, you're that guy again."
Get out of my house.
Yeah, I don't. Someone, one of our listeners from years ago, brought it to my attention that it seemed like the podcast was brought up in a Q&A panel with Larry Houston and someone else in passing. Like, it was like, you know the podcast I'm talking about, and Larry goes, "Oh yeah, I know the one you're talking about." I'm thinking, like, is that what your kind of way of saying, like, it wasn't fun for you? He's like, we had him on 3 times, and he seemed. Well, I mean, 3 times. Well, obviously, if he had a bad time, he wouldn't have come back, 2 other times.
We'll have to see what we can do to bring Larry back.
I would love to talk to him again. And we have better resources now than when we did back then.
Yeah,
and I feel like we could have even better, more in-depth interviews with him about all kinds of stuff, not just He-Man, but X-Men, G.I. Joe, other things he's worked on. But I could just sit and dine for hours just listening to him talk about his work, along with people like William Stout we've had on before and others. It's something we thought about, but it's hard. It's hard getting guests, and I would hype myself up thinking like, oh man, everyone's gonna be just as excited as I am for this guest, and like people were just like, it's another episode. I'll sit and kill 2 hours watching this. I'm like, but I think it's doing it for the wrong reasons. Like my interest in having guests on is I'm fascinated with what these people have done. I want to ask them questions. I feel like the work they've done is not been talked about at length the way that I would have preferred. So I feel like there's so much more fun to be had with these guests if we ever decide to have some guests back on in the future.
It's something we've been discussing.
So. Yeah, it's something we've discussed, and it would be nice to sit down and break bread with Larry Houston again, or William Stout, or someone else who's worked on the property, that we could just ask questions like that no one else has thought about. But for now, we're just gonna continue to come up with wonderful and entertaining ideas about what's already been established, expanding on that, or celebrating why you should take time to watch this or read this, or
And then we also plan to take a few trips into the time corridor.
Yes, so
and you'll see how that will turn out in the future. But we will go ahead. We will wrap this up. Thank you so much for everyone that joined us live in the chat tonight, and those of you that are going to watch us after the fact. Appreciate you giving us that click. Also, help us out a little bit. Click that like button, leave a comment down below, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And until later, let the power return.
By the way, I faked every orgasm.
That I obviously I should know this.
Yeah. Yeah, you should.
Yeah, I mean, you saying it, I'm like, it's.
He's got a picture of your wife, Ethel. Slugs the hell out of the guy who clearly is not having an affair with his wife. Sexual assault with a concrete dildo. What the hell were you doing up there in the first place?
Oh, his naked gun?
Yeah.
You had me at the concrete dildo. I mean, Crom got it immediately.
Yeah. Way to go, Crom.
Yeah. You're quicker to that than I will ever be. But
well, all right. Here's the other one I was going to do. See if you can get that one. Because I was going to say, which I have done this one years ago. Let's show this prehistoric bitch how we do things downtown.
I mean, that's Ghostbusters.
Oh, hey, all right.
Even though I'm kind of doubting myself, still.
Well, the way you say, like, that's Ghostbusters, idiot.
Well, I mean, you used Ghostbusters 2 a couple episodes back. I didn't think you were going to go back to.
By the way, I botched our last quote. It's, should you be drinking alcohol when you don't have a liver? What? I left out the word alcohol.
Maybe that's what it was. But because of that, I went and watched 10 Things I Hate About You that night, I believe, right?
Yeah,
or that
I woke
weekend.
up next morning with a couple of clips of funny facial expressions from the movie. Nathan.
Yeah, I was like, well, he put that worm in my ear. I need to go and watch it again.
I need to do the same thing myself.
For like the 200th time. Watch that movie a lot.
Never gets old, dude.
Thanks, guys.
Everyone.
You know, what do you want me to do? You know what I mean? Is that it?